AV Gaming here with my man MSU Fanatic. We are the Real Take, presented by Scorespace. It's gonna be episode 5 this week. Today
Six, right?
is
Is it 6?
what's up,
Yeah,
guys?
6.
It's your boy
When
JV
time flies when
Gaming
you're having fun
here
with your best
with
friend.
my man MSU Fanatic. We are the Real.
It's the best. So much
Yeah.
fun.
Is it 6?
It's 6. Yeah, it's definitely 6.
Whatever. Time flies by. You're having fun.
Yeah, when you're with your best friend. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know.
We kind of hate each other right now, but it's okay. It'll be a great show. So
What's up, man? How was your week?
it's been a long week, man. I'm glad that we have to do this on Thursday, and we're just going to talk about some sports. Got a lot of good topics to cover. Kind of sort of a slow week after the hectic craziness of last week of the election and everything, but still I think a lot of good topics. Obviously, football came through in the clutch for us this week. We had tremendous games, and the Steelers against the Cowboys, great Sunday night football game, and Seattle versus the Patriots. College football was an absolute travesty, complete mess. So that was good, and we have award winners for the MLB finally. Isn't that crazy? It's been two plus weeks now since the end of the season, and we're just finally getting the trickled out results. It's like a drip that won't stop.
Right. It's weird. Like, it takes forever. It's almost like for me, I'm feeling like, I obviously pay attention, but it's just like, who cares at this point? Like, cool.
No,
Chris Bryant.
I completely agree. I mean, I feel like we've known about the guys and we've heard it talked about so long because of the way the baseball season is put up and put together in terms of 162 games from April to November, and it's just like everyone's talking about it from start to finish, and then it culminates in this great World Series and this 7-game series. The Indians and the Cubs win, break that 108-year-old drought, and now it's like, what's going on, man? It's like, I just tell me what the awards are. Just tell me who won the awards. Instead I have to wait every other day and get some other Twitter rant that's going on. Kate Upton yelling at people on the internet and everyone getting mad on the interwebs and doing all that fun stuff. But I mean, I'm glad that we can talk about it now. Finally, that we finally had the MVP settled. We got the Cy Young settled. So we'll definitely be getting into that at a later time, right?
No, it'll be fun. I wish that they would do it like right before the start of the World Series, so that way, if there are players perhaps in the World Series who may have won the MVP award, Cy Young, so on and so forth, it'd kind of be like an extra reason to, hype it up a bit, get people excited, so on and so forth. But no, I agree. I agree totally.
I know. I just wish they did it kind of like the way the basketball is going to do it now. They're going to have it all one day, and they're going to get it done, right? So instead of this trickle down effect I mean, I know why they do it. They want to build up everything, but just tell me who won the awards, because we've just been talking about it for so long.
Right. It's like I'm trying to weasel, especially with my team losing, I'm trying to weasel my way out of the baseball mentality and trying to figure out basketball here, and it's just it's not happening as quickly as it has been in the years. So I'm still mourning the loss.
Yeah, how you doing? You feeling better yet?
I don't know. It's too many things remind me of it, so it sucks.
Oh my god!
I know it's bad, right? It's been like 2 weeks. It seriously sucks. Like, I was talking to my friend.
Glove. It just the oils of the baseball.
Dude, listen. I drove 5.5 hours home. I talked to my boy for 2 hours about this loss today. We talked 2 hours about it. It's still lingering. It's bad.
Gosh.
Anyways,
it's time to let it go. Let it go. Just take some
fuck.
Yeah, take some Elsa. Just it'll be okay, bud. I'm glad.
Right.
You're getting onto it. But what do you want to talk about first tonight? We do want to talk about the baseball award season and Kate Upton going nuts last night about the Cy Young
Dude,
MVP.
She's so hot though. She can say whatever she wants.
I know. I mean, she did win the internet last night for the.
She did.
For the tweet that she sent on. For those of you that weren't available to see what the tweets she did, obviously Justin Verlander lost the Cy Young last night against Boston Red Sox, Rick Porcello. Kind of a little bit of a controversy in terms of Rick Porcello had like 26 wins or something like that. And
yeah, he had the most in the majors. I know it was that.
I mean, tons of wins, but obviously pitchers and wins isn't really a correlation to how good a pitcher is actually good at pitching. It's more of a correlation of how good their team is at a given night. So a lot of people were upset about this in terms of they thought that Justin Verlander or Corey Kluber or J.A. Happ or one of those other guys was much more deserving of the award. And Justin Verlander um, basically led every single stat category that you could possibly do in terms of, WAR and strikeouts, and he had less run support, ERA, all that stuff. He was way better than Rick Porcello, and Rick Porcello ended up winning the Cy Young. And Kate Upton, obviously, Justin Verlander's fiance, took to Twitter and was like, I thought I was the only one that could F Justin Verlander, but apparently it's also the baseball writers. So kind of a subtle shot in terms of, hey, well, what's going on, but also hilarious because, well, he may have lost 2 but he gets to come home to me and guess what we're doing. So
Right.
it was kind of, I just find it so weird, JB. Like when I'm looking at, I was on the Baseball's Writer Association website before we got on here and just looking at the way that the ballots kind of shook out. And I mean, looking at it, so we had like 12 guys that received votes, right? That just seems like way too many to be receiving
It's
votes.
entirely too many. They need to do it to where they get like a top 3 or maybe a top 5, and then
Yes,
those writers have to pick from those top 3 or 5.
yes.
Um,
Force
too
them
many.
to force them to basically make a choice, right? Force them into a 3, 4, 5, or have a runoff at the beginning, right? And take the
Hmm.
first um, 5 or so recipients that have the most amount of votes, take those 5 guys, and then have the final tally at the end of the year. I feel like that would be a better way because I'm looking at this, and you have Tanaka receiving votes. You got Miller obviously receiving votes, which is fine. I think that
Quintana. Ugh.
Quintana, I mean, Sale had a good year, but he really tailed off in the second half. So it just seems so odd that that's the way to happen. And I brought up a point. I was talking to Carl dude a little bit yesterday. Carl's a guy that streams on Twitch, and I was talking about how the baseball writers for these guys, a lot of them are beat writers, right? And they get so indoctrinated with their own teams because they really are living with their teams from April until October. They don't get to see a whole lot of baseball. And I really wasn't surprised that Rick Porcello won the Cy Young for the AL last night, just because these guys are really stat junkies and box score watchers. They're not so much of, I'm going to go really dig deep into the sabermetrics. They're not able to go watch a lot of games for the pitchers that pitch. I mean, the pitchers are pitching once every 5 days. So how much baseball can they actually see of these guys before they cast their ballots, especially the guys that are the beat writers that are with the team on a day-to-day basis? I mean, it's hard enough to cover one team at one time, let alone be an expert in your entire league, right?
Yeah. What I do agree. It
Care to
comes. They need
elaborate?
them. They do. I can go on and on about this. But I agree with everything you said. Do you think that? Do you have a problem with Porcello winning it? First of all,
I don't really have I don't have a Porcello problem. Yeah, I don't have a problem with Porcello winning the award per se because I think he did enough to warrant the award. But I thought that Verlander did more than what Porcello did with a worse ball club in just having I just thought his numbers were better overall, right? And I think to me, when I look at pitching and I'm trying to decide who the best pitcher is, I think they shouldn't even look at wins and losses because it's just,
exactly. They made remember when Jose Fernandez, not Jose Fernandez, Jesus, God rest his soul,
yeah,
but
RIP, man.
um, um, Felix Hernandez from Seattle when he won it, and he had like a 12-11 record.
Yeah,
He was like a 500 record, but his strikeout numbers, his WHIP, his ERA, it was they were just lights out. And they gave him the Cy Young that year, and people were like, "Well, he doesn't have enough wins." And the baseball kind of countered that, and they were like, "Well, it's not all about wins. Wins doesn't tell you everything there is to know about a pitcher." And then in this case, I'm looking at Porcello's numbers, and I don't see anything on his numbers really to go off of other than
he had
the amount of wins he
a
had
whole lot of
compared
wins,
to
right? Yeah,
yeah.
and I completely agree with that assessment. It's just it just seems it's just a moving target. We complain about this in the NCAA tournament. We complain about this when it comes to the college football playoff, which we'll get into later. It's a moving target every single year, and it never stays consistent in terms of what are these writers looking at and what makes someone better objectively between one guy to another. So I just wish they had a very specific set of criteria that they would go on and they would stick to it, because as we know in the NCAA tournament, one year it's how many top 25 RPI wins did you have?
Right.
And then the next year it's how many away wins did you get at an actual away non-neutral site. So I just think that it's hard to have it's hard when you have subjectivity, when you have humans voting for these awards like you do with the
Hmm.
baseball writers. And then to corollary from my point earlier, it's hard when you're dealing with baseball writers who are indoctrinated with their teams from April to November and don't get to see as much baseball as maybe a guy that works for the MLB Network or something like that. So
Right. No, I agree. And if you look at the voting, Verlander actually had more first place votes than Porcello did, but
did.
Porcello had
He did.
so many more second and third place votes compared to what Verlander did.
Yes.
And that's kind of what did it for him.
Yeah, Porcello had 8 first place votes. Verlander had
Yeah.
14, and Porcello had 18 second place votes, and Verlander only had 2. I'm looking at that right now.
Right.
It ended up being 137 points to 132 points, whatever the way that they do their weighting based system. So I mean, it's kind of silly. And I mean, Porcello, good for him. I don't think we have any complaints about the NL Cy Young Award winner. I mean, maybe Kyle Hendricks, you could make a case for him, because I mean his ERA was less than 1 in the second half of the season, or for the last 2
It was
months. It was
crazy.
insane. It was so good. But at the same time, you have to factor in the Cubs defensively were like one of the best defensive teams of all time in terms of taking away runs from the opposition. So you obviously have to factor that. It's so hard to look at a pitcher objectively and say this pitcher is better than that pitcher, because he's so reliant on his entire ball club to get everything done.
Right. And it's and it I can understand how hard it has to be for these writers, because all of these pitchers that are on this list, you can make a case for any of them to be first place, other than maybe, from at least in my mind, at least for maybe than a couple of them. But especially when it comes down to the AL side, like the AL side, I could have gave first place votes to 4 of those pitchers that were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's got to be difficult. Do I think Porcello is the Cy Young in my mind? I do not. Am I going to sit here and say they made the wrong choice? No. I mean, I'm not going to. You can make a case for all 3 of them.
Sure.
They chose Porcello.
Yeah, and that's the way it goes sometimes. And Verlander has an MVP. So,
Yeah, Verlander's got a very long and very good-looking resume. He has nothing. I'm sure that he's not sweating this too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then look what he gets to come home to.
Yeah.
Would you rather have the Cy Young or Kate Upton? That's my question. So
yeah,
10 times out of 10,
depends
I'm
on
picking
how
the Cy Young.
mad she is at me that night. That's what it depends. If she's really
The madder, the better, according to her tweets.
Yeah, she's mad. She's mad. It's just so funny. She probably does nothing about baseball, but she just wanted to slide that one in there low key, right?
Yeah, he probably told her to tweet that. To be honest,
she was on her phone and just
right. Babe, give me your damn phone.
She's mortified the next day. What did I do? Oh
that, or she popped up into his bedroom. Honey, can I send this? Yeah. Can I send this? And he's just like, yeah, well, whatever. He's probably playing Call of Duty or
let's
something.
Let's move on. So the MVP, the NL. The NL was such a slam dunk this year. I really don't think there's anything to really discuss in terms of controversy or deciding whether.
You know what's crazy about the Cubs is they can have a different MVP award for like the next 4 years.
But let's talk about the AL MVP, because I thought this was the most interesting race besides the AL Cy Young. I mean, Trout won the MVP. I don't think I first personally, I think I voted in our own poll that I wanted Betts to win. But actually, after looking at some of the numbers and understanding the numbers a little bit better, I completely switched my vote and say that it would go to Mike Trout. And I have no problem with Mike Trout winning, even though his team was god awful, right? I mean, their numbers were so close. But besides the WAR, he was a full win above replacement better than Mookie Betts at 10.6 instead of 9.6. And then his OPS plus, which basically is on base plus slugging, that is basically it's relatively it's normalized to the park that they play in. Trout was at a 176, and average is 100 for a major leaguer, and Betts was at 131. So he was essentially 45% better than Mookie Betts as a hitter. And Altuve was actually at a 154 OPS plus. So
Altuve's power numbers were way up this year.
way up.
Way up.
He hit 5 less home runs than Mike Trout, and he only hit 7 less home runs than Betts.
What were the stolen bases on those three?
Altuve blew him out of the water. Trout had 30. Betts had 26, and Altuve.
See, I thought Betts had more.
Altuve had 70.
That's insane. That man is, for how big he is. If you've been to I went to a baseball game where we played Houston, and I saw that man standing next to other baseball athletes. He looked like somebody's kid. It's insane what that man could do with the baseball bat. I mean, incredible. Yeah, seriously, no, I mean, it's incredible.
It is absolutely incredible, and I mean, Trout literally had one of the best hitting years just ever. I mean, just ever in terms of what he looked at. I mean, obviously, when Miguel Cabrera won the first Triple Crown, I mean, obviously that was huge. But what Trout does defensively too is just out of this world. When you combine that plus all of his hitting numbers, plus playing on a terrible team where absolutely no one's protecting him in that line.
That, and I was just about to say that people, I've hear people making the argument all the time, especially during peak MLB season. Mike Trout or Mookie Betts, who's going to win the MVP award? And everybody's like, well, Mookie Betts' team is this much better, or he's doing this. I'm just like, well, if you put Mike Trout in Boston's lineup hitting third in front of Poppy and behind Pedroia, his numbers would be historical.
Bogarts, Benintendi, I mean.
Yeah, right? I mean, he would have numbers that you've never seen before in baseball if you hit him in the third in that lineup.
Especially as a righty going over the Green Monster, right?
It would be insane.
I mean, the Angels Park, I mean, it's got that low wall, but I think in left, it's actually pretty deep. So
yeah. Who knows? We could see. I mean, he's going to get traded. Not traded, but he's got another contract coming up at the age of like 28, which is like peak prime years for.
I thought he's controlled until like 2025. I thought he's controlled for a pretty long time, actually.
Really? I thought he signed that like. I could be wrong. I thought he signed a deal.
Here, you fill some space. Let me look it up.
Yeah, I'm almost positive I remember baseball writers talking about this, where he signed a deal, and they're like, yeah, he signed one of the biggest deals in MLB history, but he could sign another one by the age of like 29.
He's extended through on a 6-year, $144.5 million contract. He signed it in 2014. So
yeah, he'd be about 29. Am I wrong?
Yeah, he'll be 29 when he hits the free agent market.
That's right around your prime years of baseball right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about the contract. He's going to sign another historic deal as long as he stays healthy, knock on wood. And I don't think that'll be with the Angels again unless they figure out how to turn it around. But they just have no farm system. Yep. They have no young talent. Like, they're just in trouble.
It's really bad. And I know there's some people in the chat talking about Altuve. I thought Altuve was good, but I mean, Brian Dozier was the best second baseman in the AL in basically the second part of the
second half
of the season, right? And
yeah, Carl. Shout out to Carl, dude. That's his name right there.
Yeah, Dozier's on the trade block everywhere, but everyone wants Dozier. Who doesn't want Dozier? Because everyone thinks they can get him for decently cheap off the Twins, because the Twins really have no. Sorry, there's nothing else going on at the Twins right now, unfortunately. So I think
shots fired.
Yeah, he'll probably be moved at some point. But I mean, he was by far the best second baseman in the second half with the AL.
Dude, it was insane. He hit like 30-something home runs in the second half.
Yeah, and he was 350 guy. I mean, he was amazing. I mean, he literally was amazing. So I just thought it was good. And obviously, people kind of had the homerism for David Ortiz, which obviously arguably had the best hitting season of a 40-plus-year-old guy. So, I mean, there was that too. But I don't think there's anything wrong with Mike Trout. And you know what's going to be the problem is, Fargo, is that Trout's going to put up these numbers year after year, and people are going to get stale with him, and they're not going to vote for him. It's going to be –
and then it's just not going to be appreciated. Like, He's the best player we've ever seen. I'm 26 years old. He's the best player I've ever seen, and it's not even a question.
Mm-hmm. And
you know what I mean?
And it's going to be the LeBron James effect, where you could vote LeBron James as MVP every single year, but the writers aren't going to want to do that. They're going to mix it up because that's what people do, right? That's what they do. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here after this situation. But I mean, hats off to Trout. That was awesome. And I think we just have to sneak it in. Right, Chris Bryant wins the MVP, Rookie of the Year, Minor League Player of the Year. whatever Hake Aaron Award thing this past year. Now an MVP. I mean,
GQ top 10 sexiest men in America.
that dude. You're gonna have to back up a truck to his house to fill up all the trophies, and it's just
And he's just getting started.
it's incredible. And the best part to me about Chris Bryant isn't any like he's just a nice guy. Like I feel like we could call him up and be like, "Hey, Chris, you want to come on the Real Take? It's a great new podcast." Chris would be like, "Oh my god, yeah, I want to do it." He'd be like,
Yeah, he'd give us like 20 minutes
yeah,
too.
he'd be super excited and answer all of our questions and do all this stuff. I mean, he could be a complete asshole. I don't have no idea, but it just
Dude, did you watch that video I told you to watch, or the final play of Game 7? He fields the ground ball and he has the biggest smile on his face.
Yeah.
That tells you everything you need to know about Chris Bryant. I'm telling you, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a good video.
Yeah, I know. I saw. I mean, it's great. But I mean, hats off to him. And I like you were kind of talking about the Cubs could have potentially an MVP, like alternating MVPs with Rizzo and Bryant, and then the new guys coming in terms of Contreras, if he turns out to be a really good hitting catcher. I mean, guys, that'd be huge. And
yeah,
I mean, there's just
Baez, Russell, Rizzo, everybody.
I mean, everybody, right? There's just so that's pretty awesome.
How do you feel about Corey Seager finishing third? With me living on the East Coast and somewhat you as well, like we don't hear much about him, but how good is he?
He's awesome. His defense could use a little bit of work, but man,
he's going to have to move position sooner or later because he's a pretty big boy. He's just really young, so he hasn't filled in, but he's going to get huge. He's going to switch positions sooner than later because he's below average defensively, which is not many people may know that, but what he can do with the bat is unreal.
His power is just outstanding for a guy that doesn't look like he's that powerful, right?
To all parts of the field, left center, right center. I mean, he doesn't get cheated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then how about Freddie Freeman? The year he kind of had,
sneaking his way.
He finished sixth.
Not dishing him at the deadline because he had a interesting year up to the second half, and then he was pure fire, as we were talking about before the show, pure fire in the second half. And good for the Braves sticking to their guns and keeping him. I mean, I don't really know exactly what the Braves are trying to do in that organization. And part of my ignorance, I don't know what they have in their farm system that's available for them. But I mean, Freddie Freeman he's a special kind of player. I don't know who he really reminds me of, but he's going to be a good one.
Yeah, he doesn't really remind me of anybody like that. I was just going to kind of elaborate on that. Like he's first baseman. He's not huge. He's not. I mean, he's kind of just like slender, but
he's
the bat speed
though,
and the power.
Isn't he like
no, he's tall. He's just like tall and slender, but he's not like filled out like a first baseman. Yeah, he almost reminds me of like a left fielder or a right fielder, like body.
Yeah, 6'5". He's 6'5". So,
and I'm pretty sure he plays like a Gold Glove first base.
Yep.
He hits for power. He always leads the league in doubles, or he's up there in doubles. I'm glad they didn't dish him because the Braves are that they're one of those organizations to where they're just so well known where they kind of needed a face of the franchise. So good for them. I mean,
absolutely. Man.
I know they're kind of filling up on prospects and whatnot. I know they're maybe a year away, but he's not too old. I mean, he's somebody who can be there during the rebuild.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I think we've done a pretty good job of covering the baseball thing, and I guess that kind of ties a bow a little bit on it for holiday season's coming up. So tie a bow on the
real quick. Let's talk about the two teams who are in the World Series, what their future holds. Obviously, we know the Cubs' future is bright. I could see them being there. If 5 years, 3 out of the next 5 years, I can see them in a World Series, if not more, just based upon the talent. But what are your thoughts on the Indians roster? I want you to elaborate first because I don't want to have the biased opinion. Do you think you could see them there within the next couple of years, or did you think this was kind of their year before?
Well, fill me in real quick because I haven't been following as far as arbitration has been going. Who are they not re-signing right now? Who are the pieces that are going?
The only two pieces that were contributed really in the World Series.
Yeah.
That they haven't said they're not re-signing them, but Napoli has right? Napoli and Raji Davis. They already re-signed Carlos Santana.
Okay.
What people around here are kind of getting the feeling is if they're going to try to go out and get like a Justin Turner, they're going to try to go out and get like a Trumbo, a player like that. And if they can't get one of those, then they're going to fall back on Napoli and just kind of overpay
if
the
you get
price to keep
Justin
him.
Turner, where would Jose Ramirez play then? Would he play
Jose Ramirez
center?
could play left field. He could play second base. He could play center field. He could
Okay,
play left field. The
so he'd take the gap being left by Roger
Yeah.
Davis, right?
If they end up not getting Napoli back, rumor around here is they may move Michael Brantley to first because of his shoulder,
Uh-huh.
Jose Ramirez to left. Whoever they need to play at third, they can play third. If Trumbull needs to move to the left, then Jose Ramirez will play third. And just a huge puzzle piece, but it would all work out.
I mean, listen, I think that the Indians are a fantastic ball club, and I think they're going to be contenders in the AL Central because, the Sox really aren't getting anywhere. They're trying to kind of fire sale, no pun
Right.
intended. And then you have the Twins, who obviously that one's like a delayed one. That was good. And then you have the
Took me a
Twins,
minute.
obviously, that aren't exactly going to be on the precipice of contending and really unsure of exactly what the Tigers going to do. I mean, they could look very different next year depending on if they want to be buyers, they want to be sellers, do they want to get younger, or they want to try to kind of keep the core that they have and move on. So I think they'll be fine trying to compete in the AL Central, so they'll be there next year. And then you have to really think about they didn't have Carrasco, they didn't have Salazar. I mean,
Brantley.
if you have Trevor Bauer give you a couple good innings, if you have Josh Tomlin give you good innings, get you a couple wins, that's a really formidable rotation that I think can go toe to toe with anyone else in the majors. And then that bullpen. The bullpen's just amazing. You have Allen, you got Miller, you got Shaw. I mean, those guys are very, very good bullpen guys, and there's just not a lot of good bullpen guys in the majors. There's just not. Just look at the Cubs, right? The Cubs arguably had one of the better bullpens in the NL, and Joe Maddon didn't trust any single one of his guys to close out Game 7. That just tells me that the fact that the Indians have that luxury is basically like a +2 on the field already.
Right.
So I think the Indians have a great shot, as good of anyone out of the AL, to come out of the AL next year and see what it looks like. But it's so early right now with so much to come in terms of arbitration. If the Indians get Justin Turner, who I love Justin Turner, man. He's a great third baseman, really good defensively, can do a lot of different things with the bat, can hit with a little power, a little contact. I mean, just a great third base. If they get him, I mean, that would be a fantastic move. And there's just not a lot of big name free agents to go after. And I think a lot of teams won't want to spend money on a so-called kind of glue guy per se.
Right.
I think Justin Turner fits the Indians, right? He probably fits the Indians mold
Right.
more than he fits the LA Dodgers glitz and glamour role.
Yeah. Exactly. 31-year-old guy doesn't have many prime years left. He's going to have to get somewhat, he's going to have to get overpaid, to play on somebody's ball club who they know he's probably not going to be there more than 2 or so years.
Yeah, exactly.
But I agree with you. But the big key to me is if they can get Brantley back to like 90% Brantley, who's a year and a half. I mean, the year before he got hurt, he was second in the MVP voting, Silver Slugger, plays a great outfield. I think he's really the key to where you can move, Lindor, Kipnis up to the leadoff spot, put Brantley at the 3 hole, and then you'll have, Napoli, Santana, so on and so forth. So I think that's really key.
It's just incredible it can't be understated or not said enough in terms of what Terry Francona did to manage that team, to get into the series, to absolutely stymie really the 2 best offensive teams in the AL, in the Red Sox and the Toronto Blue Jays.
Right.
Hats off to Terry Francona again for just doing that and managing that team and really stitching the whole thing together and getting to the World Series and pushing the Cubs to their absolute limit.
Had their backs against the wall for 3 games.
Absolutely had their backs against the wall. But I guess we'll tie a bow on that. Obviously, when free agency stuff it happens and the winter meetings are coming up. Some of them are happening right now with just the owners and the GMs. But
right, it seems weird.
Yeah, right. It's baseball season never sleeps, which is fine with me. We'll obviously come back to that. But to tie a bow on it, it was just an absolutely phenomenal season with the award winners, and congratulations to all those guys, and obviously congratulations to the Chicago Cubs and the Cleveland Indians for just having phenomenal years. But I think what do you want to move into next? Do you want to talk about football and how good?
Yeah, let's get into how the crazy weekend we had in college football, and then how good, followed up by the rankings.
We were just on the show last Thursday, talking about how bad football has been everywhere. Right. And then football just comes in and says, "I'm here again." Guess
Right?
what? It's your old
They had to have listened.
ball.
They had to.
They had to have listened. That's the only way it got better. That's the only way it got better. Right? But wow, college football. I mean, you had what three of the top four teams go down this weekend. You had
Hmm.
Clemson losing to Pittsburgh by a point. You had Michigan losing by 2, right, against or 1 also by a point to Iowa at Iowa. You had Washington losing a 13-point game to USC, which was a lot closer than the final score indicated.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
those 3 guys lose, and now it's complete chaos.
yeah. It's I'm just gonna start it off with this. And Ohio State wins out, but they do not make a Big Ten championship game. They in or they out.
Does Penn State win out and win the Big Ten title
Let's say Penn State wins out.
and loses and
Either
Wisconsin
scenario,
wins?
yeah, either scenario.
Because
Like, give me either
if
scenario. If they lose to Michigan or win to Michigan or
if
Wisconsin or
if
whatever,
if Penn State wins out and they win the Big Ten title against Wisconsin, they will have gone on a 9-game win streak.
with wins over Ohio State,
Wins over
Wisconsin,
Ohio State, Wisconsin, and I think they had one other decent win. I think maybe it was Nebraska. I don't think it was Nebraska, but they had one other decent win. I believe it might have been out of conference. Uh, I think you put Penn State into the college football playoff, as much as that pains other people, and it's been talked about a lot over this past week about the whole eye test and all this like subjectivity and blah 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 blah. And while I do think Ohio State is probably one of the top 4 best teams in the nation, it's just it makes me struggle so much to discredit what they did in the regular season, going ahead and beating Ohio State just in a head-to-head 1-to-1 matchup. They beat them. They beat them straight up, and a lot of people are saying, "Well, I still think Ohio State's the better team." My counterpoint to the whole thing is, then you should have beat them. They should. You had the opportunity, and
had the lead.
they had the lead, and they bought the field goal. And as much as they did not win. They lost the game, and I've been harping on about this the whole time. It's about who you're beating and not who you're losing close to. So I'm still gonna have to say that it's Penn State. I think the argument gets a lot better is if Wisconsin and Penn State play in the Big Ten title, and then Wisconsin beats Penn State, because then you really look at it and you say, okay, what are the wins that Wisconsin really has? I mean, they really don't have a lot of big wins,
They don't have any really
right?
sexy wins
The, the,
comparable
the
to.
only the only big win that I'm gonna look up, because I don't know their schedule right off the top of my head. They beat Nebraska in a very close game in which Ohio State blew the crap out of Nebraska.
Right, and they beat
They beat
LSU at the
LSU in the
beginning of the
very
year.
first game of the season, in a 2-point game that was a lot closer, and it was a close game throughout. They play at Purdue and versus Minnesota. I mean, that schedule is just nothing to write home about. They played Akron and Georgia State in their out of conference plus LSU.
They had to go to like the last drive to beat Georgia State. Am I
Yes,
correct? I
yes,
think
that
they
is
had it.
correct.
It
It
took
was a
the last drive.
23-17 game. So it's just if they end up winning the Big Ten, I see Ohio State being able to jump them and being in the college football playoff, even though they lost head to head, because of the fact that they have 2 losses, and the 2 losses came against the 2 best teams that they played.
Right.
So
The number 2 and 4 ranked teams in the country at the time.
100%. So just beat the teams you're supposed to beat them. Just beat the teams. You had it out in front of you. And that's the whole thing that I'm thinking I'm learning from this whole experience with the college football playoff scenario, is that these guys, just instead of all this crap, just go and win your games and take care of business. Now, it's obviously much easier said than done. Last year when Michigan State was fighting, they lost to Nebraska on a fluke over last second play, where the guy should have been called for illegal touching, but wasn't. They called him as a forced out of bounds. Michigan State took care of their business, won the Big Ten title game, got to the college football playoff. It was all right in front of them. It's just it's hard. It's going to be hard for me. Is Penn State would win the division that Ohio State side is in the Big Ten East, and they beat them head to head. It would be just so hard for me to say Oh yeah, I'm putting them. I'm going to put Ohio State over Penn State in that situation. It would just be very difficult for me to.
Right. I can. I promise you this: the committee, deep down, I don't think the committee wants Penn State to win out because it's going to
Absolutely
be
not.
very tough for them. They're going to be
Of course they
under the
don't.
microscope.
Of course they don't. People keep talking about that the college football committee is not about the getting the most exciting players in, like a Lamar Jackson. It's not about getting the sexiest teams in. It's not about getting the brands in. That's malarkey. Of course they want to do it if they can give their opinion and give a strong argument about why they did it.
Right.
So I think if Penn State wins out, it's going to be very, very difficult to make that competitive argument that Ohio State deserves to get in more than Penn State. But if Wisconsin wins, it's much easier to say, "Oh, Ohio State's in. They beat them head to head. They got kind of fluked out of winning the Big Ten East. We're going to put them in because we think they're one of the top 4 best teams in the country." That's my opinion right now. But boy, it's getting
Do you
crazy.
think? Do you think 2 Big Ten teams could have potentially make the college football playoff?
I don't think so. Not right now with the collision course with If Michigan hadn't lost this past weekend, I think you have a much easier time doing that because I do believe the Big Ten is the best conference in America. But because Michigan lost at Iowa against a very bad Iowa team,
Very coming into the year, they had a little bit higher expectations, but playing out through the year, they've had a rough going.
they have had a very rough going. So I think it would have been a much easier case, but now there's no way because you're going to have to put in that would mean that you put in a 2-loss Wisconsin team and you put in a 1-loss Ohio State team. And I would rather have that. Now you're going to miss out on a potentially a Pac-12 team, potentially uh, a Clemson or a Louisville team that's only going to have 1 loss at this point. So I just don't think you're going to be able to see 2 Big Ten teams. Obviously, there's a lot to happen left. There's so many.
All right, as we could tell by last week, I mean, we can all we can have a different argument next week. Like, is Colorado?
Yeah.
Are they? You know what I mean? Like,
No, Colorado. I mean, the Pac-12 is so bad, and I feel.
no, you know what I mean. Though we could just be talking
Yeah.
about 4 different teams next
And
week.
it's funny. I was talking about the college football rankings and the college football playoff rankings are the biggest bunch of clickbait I've ever seen for ESPN. Like, why are we even talking? Like 2 weeks.
We should be talking about this like the last maybe 3 weeks, but probably 2.
Because this would be the last 3 weeks, and this would be the first time we could release these rankings if we did it for the last 3 weeks. This would be it. I'd say just do it the week before the college championship games get played.
Mm-hmm.
Release a ranking right there, so everyone knows where they're at going into the college football championship, and then release them right after the college football championship, and that's what you see.
Right. I don't blame them for doing it though. I mean, look like us. We're sitting here talking about it. It's a huge talk.
Of course,
smart by them, but it is frustrating. It's just like none of this really matters.
No, it absolutely doesn't matter, and it's the biggest bunch of clickbait ever. I completely get why they talk about it and why they do it, because at least it was, back in the day, it was the BCS rankings and it was all computer based. Now you have a committee and you have this dude coming up on TV talking about, well, let's just say Pittsburgh beat Clemson, but we still think Clemson's great. So, I mean, I think it's really good for them to have it, but I really don't like it. I don't like preseason rankings either. We've talked about it. I think rankings should be released 6 weeks into the season just because.
Yeah, or at least after your first 2 division games, conference games.
Freaking Michigan State ranked in the top 10. Well, never mind. That's just gonna make me.
I got 2 teams to talk about real quick before we move on. 1 loss, Washington, forking them for that loss. I mean, they had to win out, right? They had to go undefeated unless something funky happens here in the top 5. They really needed to win out. I know that's our team. We've been talking about Washington all year. We love them.
It sucks because
are they done?
They lost. They lost 2 really big defensive players.
That
are just. I mean, they're phenomenal defensive players. I forget their names. One of them is a defensive lineman, and the other guy's a middle linebacker. Really, really good players. It's just as I look, I'm pulled up their schedule right now. I mean, they absolutely shellacked Stanford 44-6 when Stanford was still ranked in the top 10, and no one actually knew that Stanford was horrible. They shellacked Oregon 70-21. Like it's
Good win at Utah.
great win at Utah. Absolutely great win at Utah. But they got really screwed out of the fact that the perennial Pac-12 teams are just not as good as they typically are.
And you know what it is? I think it was the way they lost to USC, which kind of shocked a lot of people. I mean,
Yes.
USC, I know they're a top 25 ranked team, but they handled Washington. I mean, it wasn't even close. They handled them.
Yeah, I mean they didn't, they didn't. I just Jake Browning had one of his worst games I've probably ever seen him play in his short 2-year career so far. But
He's going to be a first round talent next year.
Yeah, when he's eligible, he's going to be a top 10 pick. I'd probably pick him over Deshaun Watson right now, and Deshaun.
No, I agree.
Every other quarterback out there, because I don't think I think that Washington runs a pro style offense, and I take running a pro style offense and being able to work out under center a lot higher than anything else as a quarterback coming out. That's the way that I evaluate talent a lot more.
Right. And for those who may not know what we're talking about, when we talk about pro style offense, we're talking about, the quarterback lining up behind the center, getting his hands down there by his buttocks and taking the snap, 3-step, 5-step drops, reading the offense, instead of just sitting back there in the shotgun, receiving the ball and, kind of playing flag football, as they do in the Pac-12.
Yeah. And they lost Azim Victor, which is their leading tackler. He was carted off the field.
One of them's the corner who's projected first-round pick.
Sidney Jones?
Is he? I'm pretty sure the corner was a projected first-round pick, if I'm not wrong.
He is, but he's not hurt. He's okay.
Okay. I may be wrong. That's why I got you here. That's why there's two of us.
Yeah, I don't think he's hurt right now, but he's a fantastic talent. He's so good. He's been only thrown out about 5 times this year, and now he's doing great. But just absolutely outstanding. It's just. They talked about this. I saw this on Mike and Mike earlier this week. They talked about what if it was USC playing the same schedule as Washington, or what if it was Oregon? Would we be having the same discussion, or would they be locked to get in even with the one loss? I mean, I think that's an interesting take on the situation, just because those are the perennial powers in the Pac-12, and because they're so down this year and we're looking at a non-traditional power in Washington, is it a bias that people aren't talking about? I'm not really sure. What's your take on that?
I think they're done.
I think they're done.
They're in a conference to where you almost I do. Yeah. I think they needed to win out. And they kind of, and especially now that it's not computers, generating the rankings, that it's actual human beings sitting back there. A one-loss Washington, they're going to look back. They're going to look back at their conference. They're going to look back at the schedule, and they're going to look at the way they lost against USC. And it was an ugly loss.
Yeah.
And they were the kind of team to where they needed to kind of win out to get into there, especially with these one-loss teams that you're seeing kind of stack up here, who potentially could be stacking up here come the end of the year. Unless something funky happens to where, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, Michigan, like Clemson, Louisville, one of these teams or two of these teams lose again, I think they're in trouble.
They need a lot more chaos to happen. They need Clemson, they need Louisville. They need Clemson and Louisville to lose again, basically, I'd say, before that.
And I really don't want Louisville to lose again, because I want to see Lamar Jackson play in the college football playoff games.
I don't, because I think Louisville will get blown out.
I do too, but I want to see him play. I want to see him go up against the best instead of going up against Houston.
They'll get blown out. They have
UConn.
They have 28 transfers on their team. They're not a good football team.
They aren't a bad football team, but they are not top 5. You know what I mean? Like, they're in that upper echelon, but they're not the elite.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I think Lamar Jackson is a great player, but I don't think he's going to be able to carry a team to beat an Alabama, to beat a Clemson, to beat any of those other guys. I don't think it's going to happen. Even though he was real close beating at Clemson on that final possession coming down to the end. I think if they end up as the 4th best team and they play Alabama, they'll get absolutely trucked, and Lamar Jackson will be carted off the field.
No, I agree. I can agree with you there. That's one thing we can agree on today.
Someone in our chat just said that they have not scored against Houston yet. So they're obviously playing at Houston right now. And obviously Houston's kind of fallen off a little bit, but
Houston's up 31-0. So
Houston's up 31-0 right now against Louisville.
Yeah, 31-0
against Louisville. Okay. See, that's my whole point. This is my whole point of why I don't want to see Lamar Jackson in the top 4 teams. And thank God if they go down tonight, then we can end this stupid discussion about. I think Lamar Jackson's a great player, but just because you have a great player in the team doesn't mean I want to see you in the college football playoff.
Shout out to my boy Tom Herman up there, head coach of Houston, doing his thing. Urban Meyer's guy, left after the national championship win, doing big things up there in Houston.
Urban Meyer disciple, so he's a slime ball, right?
Yeah, he's a weasel.
He's a weasel. Okay. What? So I mean, what's your top 4 right now? And then I also want to get your take on the fact that I think the college football playoff needs to be expanded to 8 teams, like yesterday.
I don't know if they can do 8. I think it would have to be 16. Is that not right?
Why would it have to be 16?
They're talking about some like buys, and I thought if they went from 4, they were going from 4 to 16. I didn't think they were going to go from 4 to 8.
That would be really dumb. That would be totally against everything.
You could be maybe it was 12. I don't know.
Like,
I would love the more the better, dude. That shit is great.
They can't do more the better because there's just too much injury risk. It's already too close.
Bad players are. I agree. I would well, let me give you my top 4.
And the NFL, the NFL will never stand for that because December is their season and the January is their season. They don't want once January 6th is done, they want all eyes on the NFL. So
well, the NFL better get their heads out of their ass, because if they don't get their heads out of their ass, nobody's gonna be watching the NFL anymore.
No.
Me and you have been talking about this for weeks.
I'll be watching the NFL still, but go ahead with your top 4.
All right, top 4.
Tell me what your number 1 is right now.
I'm not going to tell you my number 1. You know my number 1 is. They're going to be the number 1 until Nick Saban leaves.
Who's your number 2?
Number 1 is Alabama.
Okay.
Nick Saban and Jalen Hurd is just exceeding everybody's expectations.
Yep.
He's been great.
Yep.
It's going to take a lot to beat Alabama. So Alabama number 1. Number 2, I'm going to go with my Buckeyes. The loss at Penn State hurt. I mean,
agreed.
They won, 3 out of the 4 quarters there. They controlled the game, and then things kind of fell apart. Blocked field goal, return for a touchdown. I mean, Penn State needed a special teams touchdown or some kind of fluke to happen to beat Ohio State at home. Yep. I mean, and it happened. So Ohio State, I'm not sitting here making excuses. That's a game they should have won by 2 scores as they were the favorites.
Agreed.
And number 3, I'm going to go with Clemson. Clemson over Michigan. I just have a feeling Deshaun Watson's going to start shining. Although what me and you have been predicting for weeks finally happened in the
everyone told me he played so well. He threw for 520 yards against Pittsburgh. I don't care. He had 2 interceptions.
Yeah, and he
don't care about 520.
We've been talking about that. The interceptions are going to kill him. Not the interception, but the turnovers were going to end up killing him, and they finally caught up to him. Mm-hmm. But based upon who's 4, 5, 6, and 7, I got Clemson still at number 3, followed by Michigan at number 4, and then my 2 looking in, I would have said Wisconsin and Louisville, but Louisville's losing right now, so I'm gonna get out of the whole Louisville talk, and I'm going to say Wisconsin, Penn State for 5 and 6. I'm not ready to throw Washington in there yet.
I'd flip-flop Clemson and Michigan in that situation. I think the Michigan wins are way better than the Clemson wins, especially if Louisville goes down tonight. Clemson has Auburn, Louisville, and Florida State wins, which I honestly don't think any 3 of those teams are really that good. Michigan has Colorado, Penn State, and Wisconsin, which I think those teams are tremendously better, just based on the fact that the Big Ten it is the best conference in America, and the fact that Louisville's down 31-0 at the half against freaking Houston. I mean, I know Houston's okay, but win your freaking games, man. If you want to be in the conversation to be in the top 4,
I'm gonna take a guess and say that's at Houston. Not that it matters, but is that at Houston?
Probably is at Houston.
Yeah, that was about a trap game as it can get for Louisville. That's not good if that's at Houston.
Yeah, it probably
short week.
My guess,
prime time.
My guess it is at Houston. Yeah, it looks like it's is it at Houston? Yes. Yep.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Yep, at Houston, 31-0. What a way to just come out there and not do anything.
I'm looking at Lamar Jackson stats right now. I want to see what he's doing.
That's horrible.
9 for 20 for 92 yards. I mean, he's rushing the ball well. It's pretty much him. The Louisville's rushing attack is 8 carries for 5 yards. So that's a recipe for disaster.
Who would you say? Let me give you a couple teams, and you tell me if they have a shot or not. Okay, let's look on the outside of the normal. Colorado at 8-2. Do they have a shot? Yes or no? Just quickly, briefly.
Do they have a shot? They have a shot. Yes.
Okay, this is going to be good. West Virginia 8-1.
I think they have more of a shot than Colorado.
It's interesting on how much they're devaluing the Big 12, which I think is correct. The fact that they had such a poor showing in the out of conference schedule is really killing them right now. I mean, I was just looking at where'd it go? TCU lost to Arkansas, Oklahoma State. And Oklahoma State lost to Central Michigan on that bad call. Oklahoma lost to two good teams. Texas lost to Cal. Texas lost to Arizona State. Baylor played a bunch of cupcakes as usual. And Kansas State lost to Stanford. So the Big 12 is just,
Yeah.
man, it
The
really.
team in the Big 12 that I think you may need to look out for is Oklahoma. I know they have a couple bad losses at the beginning of the year, but
I
they
mean,
can win that conference.
they're playing better, but it's just they still have two losses and still they're down, right? I mean,
Right.
and they got. I think people are going to look at it and they got shellacked by Ohio State on national
At home.
primetime television at home. Uh,
That score didn't do justice. Ohio State spanked them.
yes, yeah. Oh, it's it'll be interesting to see what happens. And yeah, someone just Michigan did lose their starting quarterback Wilton Spate, so who knows what they're going to look
Right,
like.
that'll be the talk we'll have next week. Like
But
we'll probably see Michigan's quarterback play, kind of evaluate it. Who knows what they have sitting behind him? But it's not good. Michigan's not in a good
they
spot.
don't rely on
Quarterback play
a
at all.
passing deep downfield threat. They rely on outstanding defense and rushing the ball.
Yeah, they play Big Ten football.
So, I still say 8 teams, get 8 freaking teams in the college football playoffs because then
Right.
we can settle this on the field. And people, the two main complaints I have, or what people have been telling me when I say I want 8 college football teams in the playoff, the things that they say are, number one, it devalues the regular season, which is straight BS. It does not devalue the regular season. It makes it more important. You know why? Because you play more important games throughout the entire season.
Right,
You
and
have
then teams would have to also schedule more better out of conference games as well.
you can play at better out of conference games, which I don't. I think people are trying to do that, but because they schedule 7 years in advance, they don't know what's going to happen. Like
Hmm.
people are going to try to schedule Michigan State last year, and it might look good. This year, it looks terrible. And then I think we're trying to schedule like an Arizona team where 3 years ago they were a good team, now they're bad. We scheduled Oregon for a home and home series 6 years ago when they just came off the national championship.
Right, and you know what? It would also, but like let's for example, if Boise State would have won out, if they would have won every game, if they would not have lost that, whoever they played at, because I talked about it on, like, I think it was the first or second podcast. I'm like, if Boise State goes undefeated, there's going to be an argument that people are going to make to put them in the top 4 because
Well,
they could at the end of the year be the only undefeated team in a decent conference.
What about Western Michigan?
That's not even close. That's like a high school conference. That conference is terrible.
I mean, some people would say the MAC and Boise State's in what
Big Sky.
Big Sky or conference. I mean, I would say that those are very comparable. They're both
No, I mean I don't disagree, but
power conference teams.
Boise State is more of a.
Western Michigan has 2 wins with the Big Ten East teams.
I'm not taking anything away from what Michigan. I would.
Right?
When I asked you, no, you're right. When I said, "Hey, I have 2 more teams for you," and I asked you, I was almost going to ask you about Western Michigan, about where
Northwestern by a point. Northwest is a pretty decent team, little team, hard to stop offense. And they beat Illinois. But
would you like to see teams like them in the top 8?
I don't want to see Western Michigan. Well, if we have an 18 playoff, I would want to see Western Michigan. I don't want to see them in the top 4. I don't think they deserve that. I think they deserve to be in a New Year's Day 6 game. They have a very good wide receiver by the name of Corey Davis, who will be drafted probably in the top 15. It's a 6'5" guy. He reminds me a lot of like a Terrell Pryor, Josh Gordon type. Like just go up, get the ball, big bulking receiver, a pro. I would love to see them play in a New Year's Day 6 game against like a Big 12 team and shellac the hell out of them, because everyone in the South can be like, our football's bad. Those Northerners, they got us, So
Right. No.
I think I'd love to absolutely see that. But in an 18 playoff, absolutely. Then you can add those teams in there, and people don't get upset about it. You can
that would be one perk of having an 18 playoff, where you can have like one of those teams like a Boise State or Western Michigan, one of those non-Power 5 conferences, get the chance to kind of showcase themselves and say, hey, we won all of our games, we did what we needed to do, we deserve the chance to be here. And if they get shellacked, then we can all turn around and be like, well, this is why this is our argument. Like, we don't want to see this happen. But
my other point about 8 teams, so that's besides the fact in terms of the 8 teams, it increases the value of the regular season because you're playing more games later on in the season that actually matter instead of
Right.
being completely out of it like a lot of teams are right now playing these games. The other point is people say, oh, the eighth best team would never be able to beat the first best team, right? The number one team in the country.
Hmm.
Well, we just saw Pitt win at Clemson. We just saw Iowa beat Michigan. We just
Right.
saw USC beat Washington. Three of the top four teams just went down against teams that were outside of what would be a top 8 position. So that's a bunch of malarkey. You can send that to the bank. Like a top 8 team could certainly beat the number one team,
Especially at a neutral site
especially at
where
a
it's
neutral site.
primetime TV, where a team's gonna have 2 weeks to prepare. Anything can happen. We saw that with one of the greatest games ever, the Boise State Oklahoma game. That was amazing.
Yeah, and to top it all off, if you go to an 18 playoff, you think Bama fans are going to show up for a college football quarterfinal, a college football playoff quarterfinal? No, they're not going to go show up for that. They don't care. They're going to fight
Right.
for the
Yeah.
championship.
Show up at show up in New York to see
Whereas Western
you know
Michigan fans, I mean, who knows if they ever see this again? They'll travel to the moon to go see their team play in the college football playoff.
they're on College Game Day this week, aren't they?
They're on college game day this week.
Good for them, dude. That's
They
awesome.
had a sign that said "Game Day here, stay sober."
What?
Or no, not stay sober. It was game day here, act sober, act sober.
Right. I was seeing a bunch of Western Michigan signs where I was at
Good
for
for
my case.
yeah.
Was it near where I was at?
Yes,
The
yeah,
Muskegon?
west side of Michigan. Yeah, Kalamazoo. Yeah, Kalamazoo. You didn't drive that way. I'm thinking of when I come back from.
No, I mean I went through the Kalamazoo area. I
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
Kalamazoo signs everywhere.
That's where Western Michigan's
Okay.
at. So I think we're pretty good wrapping up that section. We'll take a quick little break here, kind of refresh the palate, and then we'll come back and get into a couple other topics like the NFL, a little bit of NBA stuff with LeBron and Phil Jackson, and I want to talk about the Foot Locker commercials that came out this past week with Tom Brady
Right.
and Carmelo Anthony, which are hysterical, the best thing ever. So please, everyone that's out there listening to mobile, stay tuned. Everyone that's out there on Twitch simulcast, thanks so much. Squarespace, thanks so much. We'll be back after a quick song. Stay tuned, please.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. We are the Real Take. Your boy JV Gaming here with my man MSU. How do you think the first hour went, man? Other than the iMessage going off in the background the entire time.
You and just yeah, I'm mad. I'm mad at you. We're gonna have a talk after this. I may have to need a new co-host. So call into the show if you're willing to replace Josh Fargo. And you just have to. I don't ask for much. Just participate, be involved, and that's it. So
Yeah,
we're
literally,
gonna
he
have a
just needs
feud.
you to talk for 30 seconds here and there so he can kind of catch his breath.
Gosh, man. Okay, I'm over it now. Let's talk about the NBA.
I'll say, get over it. Jesus Christ.
Let's talk about the NBA since we haven't really talked about the NBA, and we're not really going to talk about too much about what actually is going on in the NBA. We are going to talk about LeBron James and Phil Jackson. JV, did you see this yesterday? Have you heard about everything that's been going on with this?
Yeah, I saw you're talking about how Phil Jackson said, LeBron and his posse and so on and so forth, and LeBron kind of tweeted out and told media, this isn't what I've built over my career. We're not just like a posse, so on and so forth. And now there's kind of like a Phil Jackson and LeBron James,
Is Phil
beef
Jackson a
going on.
racist? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think Phil Jackson was being a racist at all. I just think he used the wrong word at the wrong time and kind of offended LeBron.
He definitely. I mean, I thought this is so stupid. Why? So the full quote from Phil Jackson was in an interview with Jackie McMullen from ESPN. The full quote was from Phil Jackson. It says, "quote The young men grow so dependent on their posses who fetch their cars and their girls that they can't possibly develop into mature, self-sufficient human beings. One day, I'm convinced we'll find out the true extent of the psychological damage that's being caused." I mean, there's no other way to take what he said as a posse as any other thing besides a derogatory comment towards LeBron James and anyone else that he's ever said posse to.
Right.
It wasn't like,
did you ever think that there was ill will between Phil Jackson and LeBron James?
I think he hates LeBron James because he thinks MJ's the best player ever and he's afraid of LeBron James unseating him. I thought that it was an incorrect way to go about getting a slight into LeBron, especially in a time in which we're so racially divisive, and this is such a huge topic with all this stuff going on right now. I thought it was a real bad call to do that.
I think I agree. The one thing I've learned living in Cleveland and being a Cavs fan and a LeBron fan my whole life, the one thing you don't ever want to do is piss LeBron off.
Oh yeah, of course.
And he's not gonna come at you. He's not the kind of guy to put you on blast, to stand you up, to kind of throw you out for the wolves. I mean, he goes upon it a very particular way where he'll let you know he's upset and he's going to show you, but he's not going to put it out there for the world to see. Mm-hmm. I'm kind of excited to see what he's got in store for Phil Jackson because something's coming. Something's coming.
I just like Phil, man. What are you doing? Like posse? Like I get like there are posses in the NBA, and that's probably what they call their boys. They probably call it their posse, but it's like me calling my little brother something and then you calling my little brother the same thing. Like you're not allowed.
Can't do it.
You can't do that. I can talk to my brother.
I'm just gonna go and say what everybody here is probably thinking. Like if you're with a group of African American gentlemen, which I have, I've spent my entire, my military career, some of my high school career, when I'm with a group of African Americans and they're calling each other, the N-word is, and like, what's up, what's up my this, what's up my that, it's okay for them to say it. Now, if I'm to go out there and say it, that's a different story.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we can kind of throw it into terms like that.
Sure. Yeah. I just think it was a bad idea. Like, why are you just doing that? And a lot of people are like, oh, get over it. It's just a word, yada, yada, yada. But he was trying to be negative with the word that he was saying. That's why he said posse. He was trying to be derogatory towards LeBron and his entire crew. So there's no other way to take that word other than a derogatory statement towards LeBron.
Right. And this is the thing. You see all of these posses and these crews around the NBA and around sports who are sometimes getting into nothing but trouble. LeBron James and the posse he has is, the Drew brothers and the people he went to high school with, his agents, like it's all people that he's been with since he was at the age of like 12 playing, basketball and travel leagues, from the books that I read. It's all the same people. They've done nothing but good things around the city.
Yep.
Charities, sending kids to college, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So I don't know where he's getting all of this from.
And it's just like those guys have hustled their butts off to be part of this and help build LeBron's really name and empire. And it's something that the NBA players do such a better job than any other sport in the world, is building their own brand recognition and their own brand by their name. So those guys to do all that, and then to have something like this kind of happen, like I think that Phil Jackson was trying to be racist about the situation? No, I don't. But at the same time, I know he was trying to be negative and trying to put them down and say, guess what?
Right.
You're not going to ever be at the level that I'm going to be at. And in that way, I think it was a completely misjudgment and bad sidestep for Phil Jackson to do. And just, you shouldn't have done it. And I think it was really stupid. And guess what? LeBron, well, you want to have LeBron in your side. You don't want to be against LeBron in
No.
a situation because LeBron is not, no one's ever bigger than the game itself. Well, LeBron's close to being bigger.
Right. There is the commissioner of the NBA, and then there's LeBron,
Yep.
and then there's the owners and players.
Yep.
And that is the truth. And I know that more than anybody. It's not the owner, the GM, LeBron. It is LeBron, the owner, then the GM. LeBron calls the shots in Cleveland.
Yep.
Who he wants to play on this team, if he knows he can make it happen,
Yep.
both financially, as far as it goes with like the team's chemistry, if he wants it to happen and he knows it can happen, it happens.
Yep.
It's not a question. He wanted Kevin Love here. What did the Cavs do? They went out and they traded Andrew Wiggins to bring him here because that's what he wanted.
It's totally stupid in terms of a poor choice of words, and created an unnecessary controversy with that poor choice of words.
Yeah.
So shame on Phil Jackson for doing that. And you're gonna have to.
And what makes it worse is he didn't like come out and apologize. It's like at this point almost going back and forth.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
He could have redeemed himself by saying, LeBron, that's not what I meant. I meant to say you and I used the wrong word. I could use better judgment, but he didn't. And I think that's kind of what makes it worse at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And to kind of piggyback off of this situation, so last night the Cavs played on a back end of a back-to-back, and LeBron rested last night, okay? And Tyronn Lue came out and said, we're going to start mitigating his minutes after the All-Star break. He's been averaging, I believe, 37 or 38 minutes a game. He wants to tone it down to 34 to 36 minutes with starting to give him the back end of back-to-backs off, which I have absolutely no problem with. What's your take on the NBA superstars resting? What is your take on the coaches resting their starters? Is it good? Is it bad? What do you think about it? Your floor is yours on that one.
All right, so I'm okay with it as a true fan of the game and knowing what's at risk and what's in store in the full 82 game season plus the playoffs. We're playing basketball here all the way up until June, July area. There's a lot of basketball to be played, and there are a lot of minutes on LeBron's knees and in his body. I mean, he does a really good job. Yeah, he does a really good job of staying in shape, but it is more about just these gimme games. Like the Cavs aren't playing for a 4, 5, 6 seed like they're trying to weasel. Tyronn Lue, this organization knows what's going to happen. They are going to get into the playoffs. They need a well-rested team. They need LeBron to be 100%. They need Kyrie to be 100%. They need Kevin Love to be 100%. All three of those guys are going to see rest at some time this year. Now, I can get, as a young fan, somebody who's buying tickets to the game, going to see, LeBron James, probably the greatest player of their generation, probably bought these tickets weeks ago, not knowing that this guy's gonna be rested. I can see how some the younger fans or media are getting upset at the whole fact. But if you're a true fan of the game and what's at stake, that we're not here to please fans. We're not here to play for today. We're not here to win today's game. We're here to win games in June, to win playoff games, and at the end of the day, win a championship. Tyronn Lue knows that. David Griffin, the GM, knows that. I mean, it's more than just ticket sales, prices, and putting on a show. As sad as that may seem, we're running a business here. We're trying to win a championship, and it just it's one of those things. I mean, one of the greatest coaches ever, in San Antonio, does the same thing. I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I don't care. Frankly, I don't care at all. Do whatever.
To be honest, I'm not even really 100% paying attention to basketball at this point because the NBA's a league to where it's so predictable. Like we know what 6 teams are going to be there come June.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a long game. It's 82 games. I think the season should be shortened to 78, 72. It's just I rest your players. I don't care. You're a coach. You're going to make coaching decisions to win a championship.
Right.
Okay?
You're not coaching to please fans. You're coaching to win championships.
You owe the fans absolutely nothing. And I understand the gripe that if you're out of the conference in terms of you're in the West and you're looking to play LeBron and they're coming to your hometown, I can see where you're trying to get you get to see LeBron maybe twice a year, right? Because that's how you're gonna come and see him. I can see where you're gonna be upset because the fact that you're expecting LeBron, especially in a game in November in which you're pretty much expecting all your starters to play because the season's only been alive for
Right. It's so
three
young.
3 weeks. I mean, I think we have about 15 games played so far out of 82, and you're going to expect to see them. So I get that, but they don't owe you anything. Their job there is to win. I think it's a joke that the NBA is going to maybe try to legislate this. I know Greg Popovich has been fined $250,000 for not informing the league in time of him actually resting his players. But even if they try to legislate some law to say, oh, guy has to be injured, they're just going to make up injuries. They're
No,
just
absolutely.
gonna
And I'm sure that's happened before.
yeah, they're just gonna make up injuries. So
I'm sick today.
yeah,
Who's the NBA to say that they're going, what are they going to send in officials to check up on
yeah,
them?
they're gonna, do they have to check stool samples? So we're gonna be like, hey,
Right.
we got to make sure it's a 3 on the little scale right there because it's a little watery today. I mean, I don't know. It's such a joke. I hate it. People complaining. These guys really don't owe you guys anything. And at the same time, the people that are complaining about it are just gonna go tune in the next day. They're gonna go to the game the next time it comes around. So nothing's really gonna change on that. And I frankly, again, I think it's a total non-factor, and I'm totally okay with it. And it's funny because Stan Van Gundy, of course, had a comment about this. The coach for the Pistons said, if you try to win every game, you get criticized for that now. It's like, Stan, if you had a championship caliber team and you had a superstar with the amount of minutes that LeBron James has played in a 31-year-old body, I guarantee
An old 31, because he's been playing in the NBA since he was 18.
since he
Those
was
aren't.
18,
That's an old 31.
I think I mean, honestly, I think he'd be singing a different tune at that point. I know what he's trying to do. He always wants to get a little jab in, especially being in the East.
Right. He loves the media. That's his
He
problem.
loves the meeting, which is fine. That's the way I love Stan Vigani. I think he's a great coach.
Oh, he's great television too.
I thought it was just funny that's what he ended up saying. But total non-factor for me. Don't care about it. Go win ball games. And at the end of the day, those guys, if you're really a fan of that team that you're going to go see them, you're going to be happiest at the end of the season when you won the championship
Right.
instead of, oh, the guy rested November 16th against the Indiana Pacers. No one cares.
Right.
Sorry.
And like we talked about this with baseball, like it's more than just suiting up and playing for 48 minutes or whatever it is. They show up hours beforehand.
Yeah.
They're out on the court, they're stretching, they got shooter on, they got practice shooter on it. There's so much more. He's getting the whole day off and coming off a back-to-back, it's crucial to him. And me as a fan, and especially as a LeBron James fan and a Cavs fan, I want to see LeBron come summertime more than I want to see him now. He's not even, I'm telling you right now, LeBron James and this Cavaliers team, they're not going out there and doing 100% of what, they're not playing playoff type basketball right now. I'd rather see all of them guys playing down the road when it matters in competitive games rather than I would rather see them playing now.
Do you think if you're going to rest a guy on an off day like LeBron, do you think it'd be better if they just send him home and not even show up at the stadium, just send him home? Or would you want him to see him come to the stadium, maybe interact with some fans? Do you think that would be a better situation?
No, I love when you see LeBron in his off days, because I get to, I have the, the pleasure of watching it every day.
Yeah.
It's awesome seeing him out on the stands. I mean, he's in the coach's huddle. He's coaching. He's literally a coach when he's not playing. He's got his suit on. He'll grab the chalkboard.
Mm-hmm.
He'll draw up plays. He's coaching people. He's out, talking to fans, and there's nothing better than that.
Yep.
What LeBron James does off the court is just as special as what he does on the court, and that shows when he's sitting on the sidelines, doing what he's got to do. He's helping his team win when he's there in a suit.
The only reason I bring it up is because I know that Greg Popovich has literally sent Tim Duncan,
people home,
Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker on public air to basically, like, he sent them on flights on Southwest day of game.
Yeah, in like non-first class, just like see ya.
Sitting in economy next to a guy with Tim Duncan sitting there sticking his legs out in the aisle.
Yeah,
trying to watch The Notebook on his flight home to San Antonio. I mean,
Greg Popovich is a weird guy.
Greg Popovich is an absolute weirdo. I don't think
he's great though. Like when he leaves basketball, it's just gonna be like, damn man, remember Pop? Yeah, nothing was better than his like halftime conference, like press conferences with Craig Sager. Those are always the best for me.
Those are absolutely the best, and shout out to Craig Sager. He fights the good fight against cancer. Still, we wish obviously
Absolutely.
wish him the best. He's a fantastic guy, regardless of what you think about his clothing selection or his wardrobe. Hey, did you see the article that I sent you about Barry Hinson? Did you read this about the Southern Illinois basketball coach Barry Hinson?
I did
You
not.
didn't read this? Okay, let me just set this up for you. Okay, so Southern Illinois head coach Barry Hinson, okay, played an away game against Arkansas, and after the game, Barry Hinson ranted about the Arkansas Razorback crowd. Okay, now Southern Illinois lost the game 90-65, and he literally said that the Arkansas Razorback crowd, they needed to quote here's what I'll tell you. I've been in here I've been in here with coach. You guys know when I was in here. I told our guys when they bring that damn Arkansas flag out with 3 minutes to go in the game and you're yelling your ass off and they can't hear. That's what it's all about. That's not a Razorback crowd, I know. Where's the camera? You got to get your butts back in the gym. What I got in a Twitter argument because I posted and said this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of an away coach. Yeah.
MSU, dude. Steven, I'm sorry. I can see your eyes lighting up when you're reading this. Like, oh my God, I can't wait.
No, I was reading this and I commented on Twitter. About the guy. I think he's a beat writer for Arkansas basketball. I commented about this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Have you ever heard of Nick Saban going into an away crowd or an away game and then coming away after beating the crap out of them 56-3 or something and be like, that crowd really sucks. They should have came back in there. Have you ever heard a great coach blame the fans for having a poor performance? Could you imagine Nick Saban losing a game and then blaming the fans because they lost that game? I'm a huge proponent in the fact that the fans are obviously a big deal and they obviously contribute to a home field advantage. But we're talking about an away coach going into a home arena and then yelling at the home arena fans for not being loud enough after your team just got blown up by 25 points.
I'm 100% convinced, and I didn't read the article, that he walked in there and he talked about stuff like that just to take away the ass beating that he got from Arkansas.
The Arkansas people got really angry with me. Let me just tell you, I've made a lot of friends on Twitter. They got really angry with me because they were like, "Why don't you understand?" They said that he had skin in the game because he was a coach for Arkansas. But then I started looking at the research. He never coached at Arkansas.
Really?
He never coached for Arkansas. So I don't know where the hell they're getting this and why they think he has skin in the game. He never coached for Arkansas. So I don't really understand why he was so angry. I don't know, maybe if he was an assistant. It would be like Tom Crean coming into Breslin Center, getting blown out, and then Tom Crean saying, well, that's not a Breslin Center crowd. When I was here, Breslin Center was going nuts. When they brought out the state flag, everyone went crazy. Like, Tom Crean would never say that. He would be like,
I'm sorry, but I hate Todd Crean.
Everyone hates Tom Crean for the most part, but
go ahead.
He's a big baby. But I just thought it was the funniest thing is why was this guy, if I'm an AD for Southern Illinois and my basketball coach got blown out and is complaining about the home crowd, I'm having a conversation with the guy the next day and he's not showing up at practice. He's gone.
Right.
Have you ever heard Bill Belichick talk about away? Have you ever heard Bill Belichick talk about crowds in your life?
No. Have you ever heard Bill Belichick talk about anything other than his team?
Oh, we're going to win the game.
We only won by 21, and I really wanted to win by 24. So these guys got a lot of work to do.
We're just going on to the Jets. Yeah, okay, bye. But I a lot of Arkansas fans. All 5 of them got really upset with me at Twitter, and they were very upset because I did not understand Arkansas basketball.
Rumor in the chat, as MJ would say, he said something about some dude from Arkansas, star his sister.
Yes, yeah, I said
true or untrue.
Yeah, I said some mean things, but I was having a bad day yesterday, so I just decided to go off.
You took it out on the Arkansas faithful.
I told him he could call in today because I told him I was going to talk about it, and I told him that we'd have this argument and I'd roast him on the show. And that I still wanted to be friends with him, even though I thought Arkansas was a joke of a basketball program. But I don't think he's here.
No, he didn't want the ass tearing he was going to receive if he called in here. I wouldn't have even said anything. I would have just been like, MSU, Would you like to take
They
on
were
this?
just so angry, and I tried to understand why they were so, because they tried to make it like they were defending him as an away basketball coach, and I'm just sitting there and just not like Arkansas basketball hasn't been relevant ever, except for the fact that they almost got Malik Monk for the from Kentucky, the guy that just blasted MSU on Monday night or Tuesday night. That's like the only time they've ever been relevant. They're just
No, they've never been. Their basketball team is god
like
awful, and a lot of SEC teams are.
SEC basketball is just a complete afterthought when it comes to
Why is that?
basketball.
Like, I don't understand where's this core like big difference between football and basketball. I know that basketball's so widespread where you'll have teams that you'll never even hear of when it comes to football being good at basketball.
Yeah.
But you would think just being a huge conference, these huge schools, these huge populations, all the money, the equipment, you'd think the SEC would draw in better recruits. It's always been a mystery to me. Like,
Because
what is it?
this quote, because this place is hard to win when they're calling the Hogs. Like, dude, you've never even coached at Arkansas.
Right. And how many times has he played there?
Like
2, 3?
I just don't understand, man. I just really just don't get it. It's so
You sure you don't want to shout out his Twitter handle for everybody on
Barry,
Twitch and
Hinson
podcast?
channel or Barry Hinson. Oh, I don't. You guys can, if you're really that interested in see it. It's MSU_fanatic88. You can follow me on Twitter, and I'm sure you can go see my mentions and see all the bad things he said to me and the bad things I said to him. But I told him we could be friends.
I'm sitting here debating on whether I'm going to put the window capture up because I'm reading it as we speak, but I won't do such a thing.
I told him I wanted to be friends still, but he never that was the last thing he didn't respond to me. He said he didn't want to be friends with me, and a lot of people liked our comments and back and forth, and it was a very interesting. It was like the very first. It was my my first Twitter fight, JV. It was my first Twitter fight.
Probably your first ever fight, to be honest.
Yes, it was actually my first fight ever. I'm very
You're a gentle giant.
I'm pretty gentle. I just get so annoyed when it comes to people just blasting stuff on Twitter and not understanding. Like I troll forums a lot sometimes. I'm like,
You don't say?
yeah, I do that. I'm like, I go on Roto World a lot, and I troll that because I'm always on the fantasy thing, and people just say the dumbest things. Like someone was talking about Marcus Mariota and how his yard per game average wasn't where it should have been. They thought it should have been at 260 yards a game. Well, it's at 248. So the whole 12 yards, it's like people just say things without thinking that they're actually going to go get fact checked. And then I go and fact check them. And then they come back and say something completely irrelevant to the straw man poll that they try to basically say and talk about. And I call them out on it. So it's just very silly. And then I obviously call out a lot of Wisconsin fans because Melvin Gordon isn't very good at football, and people really don't like that either. MJ.
You heard it. Shots fired, MJ.
MJ. But that's you really.
All right, but MJ, feel free to call in, bro. 646-558-8656.
Actually, we talked about this last. Melvin Gordon is doing fine. He's. I'm off the Melvin Gordon. I'm on to the next one. I'm on the Todd Gurley, his Trent Richardson train. Are you on that one yet?
I don't know. I might have to ask Donald Trump. He might have something to say about it.
Donald's busy eating steaks, Trump steaks.
Yeah,
he's busy right now.
Funny.
But no, I'm on the Todd Gurley as Trent Richardson train. But
don't say that because I like Todd Gurley. Really, you think he's a Trent Richardson, huh?
Yes.
Trent Richardson.
Yes.
That hurts.
Okay. Sorry. The numbers are strikingly similar to their first and second year.
I think it has to do with this. I think his injuries lingering, to be honest. He doesn't have that same explosiveness he had
last year. And why would he get hurt more from...
Didn't he get hurt at the end of last year?
I don't think so. Unless I'm misremembering, which is...
I mean, you are the head honcho when it comes to football statistics.
It is quite possible that I'm misremembering. I am getting old, so it's almost past my bedtime right now. So it's very, very possible that I misremembered. But yeah, I think he's okay. But he's Trent Richardson for sure.
Huh? You heard it here. So next week when Todd Gurley goes off for $160, I get to roast MSU.
Yep, that could be that may very well possibly be.
Do you want to move on to Tom Brady and the Carmelo Foot Locker commercial? You want to elaborate on that? I thought it was great stuff.
So funny. The best Tom Brady, for those of you that didn't see it, Tom Brady essentially made fun of himself about, he mostly, I think he called out Roger Goodell mostly on the commercial, right?
Yeah, he did a good job of calling him out without calling him out.
Yes.
It was great stuff.
Yes. It's with this Adidas Week of Greatness commercial campaign ad, and he basically just clocks in and says, "Oh, why would something that's great? Why can't it just be great? Why does it have to have something else that's going on? When what happens if you're, you know, when guesses become assumptions and then it all happens and then you have a nice vacation." And it was just really really well done. Adidas puts out some great commercials. They had the D'Angelo Russell
Mm-hmm.
commercial with Ben Simmons taking the cell phone, and he was like, "Do you have any tips for me?" And he takes his cell phone and chucks it out the door. And then Melo had another commercial that I saw this morning, and it was basically Melo making fun of himself in terms of these. He runs into these kids, and these kids are like, "Well, are you really that great? I think you're good." And he's talking about he's a 9-time All-Star, and they're like, "That's a popularity contest." And he goes, "I have 3 gold medals," and he says, "Against like Peru." And he's just so funny. And then Carmelo responds with, "Do you guys spend a lot of time on the internet talking about other people?" And the kids are like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I thought so." And then he walks away. It was just very well done. I mean, hats off to Adidas for getting these superstars to agree to really poke fun at
Right.
themselves, because
I
it's great. It's
let's
awesome.
talk about Carmelo Anthony a little bit. Do you kind of feel bad for what his career has turned out to be?
No, why? Why would I feel bad?
I feel so bad for him. Like I just want him to win a ring so bad.
You know what I feel
I've
bad
always
for?
enjoyed.
I feel
I've always enjoyed him.
I love Carmelo. I have no problems with Carmelo. I feel bad for Livin for thinking that the Knicks could compete in the East. He said that like
Living also, but Living, I know you're in here. You're lurking.
I don't think
You also told me that the Chicago Bears were going to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year as
no, he
well.
didn't. He did not say that.
No, he 100% did.
Oh my gosh.
We were talking about Super Bowl predictions,
Oh
and
my
he
gosh.
said the Chicago Bears against whoever coming out of the
I
AFC.
love Willin. I think he does a good job with what he does, but sometimes he takes things just to the edge, to the edge.
Living, tell him. You said the Chicago Bears, and I said, Living, you're crazy. This is when you had me on your show for the first time, my first ever podcast experience, and I said, Living, you're crazy.
You're crazy. But no, I don't feel bad for Melo. He put himself in a lot of the situations that he's in. And honestly, he just hasn't had a lot of good pieces around him. Porzingis is the most talented player he's ever had. And the Knicks have gotten a bunch of crap pieces around him to try and help him win, like Amari Stoudemire, who had half a knee when he got to the Knicks and just wasn't
Right.
the same player. And the Knicks are
Still a good player, but he wasn't. He needs. Oh, I feel bad. I feel bad for him. If he's gonna win, he's gonna have to take a pay cut, and he's gonna have to join somebody.
he's a great player. I just hope that he goes and finds some. The way that Carmelo plays in the Olympics with superstars, everyone says that he can't survive
Oh,
around
dude,
a
it's
bunch of
amazing.
other superstars. I find that to be just a total disregard for the way that he plays in the Olympics or plays in an All-Star game, plays with all these other teams. I think he's a great teammate. People say
Mm-hmm.
he shoots too much. He shoots too much because he's the best player on the team and he has to
Yeah,
shoot so much. Otherwise, the Knicks would be losing by 60 every game.
it's like LeBron when he had the like the 06 and 07 teams. Like it was him and a bunch of scraps that they put together, and it was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah,
If he doesn't take those 40 shots a game, his team's getting blown out every night.
I love Melo.
I do too.
Melo's great. I have nothing but the best for the Melo. He's the man. But JV, can we follow up real quick before we get into NFL power rankings? I just want to follow up. Did you see the article that I sent you about Colin Kaepernick, about him not being registered to vote? I know we talked about this last week.
Yes, I didn't. You sent me it, but I had read it beforehand,
Oh, you read it
or
beforehand? Okay.
somebody had tagged me in it.
Okay, dude. I know I kind of defended Colin Kaepernick a little bit last week. I'm kind of off that right now.
Thank you, because I was ready to tear you a new one.
I'm kind of off that right now, just because.
CJ, cue the WWE music, because I'm about to rip in MSU
Well,
right
it's
here.
just what the hell, man? You haven't been registered for vote. So what you're telling me is you didn't actually vote because you had never had any intentions to vote ever. Period. Because
Mm-hmm.
I just I commend him for donating his time and
Well,
donating his money.
let's tell the viewers here who may have not heard last week's show. He said that he didn't vote. He lied because he didn't want to vote for either of the two parties.
Yes. He said he didn't want to vote for
Go ahead.
either one of the parties because there's an oppressed system that he lives in, and it's going to be oppressed, and yada yada yada. And then I find out that the guy hasn't been registered to vote ever. He's never voted once.
Useless. He's useless.
Dude, get that. That's so stupid, man. That's so
But then the guy has the audacity to take a knee because he wants change in this world, when the one thing you could change yourself is with a vote, possibly, even though it wouldn't have mattered because he lives in LA. Regardless, you can't sit here and voice your opinion on a country and how he thinks it's in shambles, this and that, and he wants his voice to be heard. And the guy's not even a registered voter.
yeah.
That's
I like
shenanigans. And if I saw him, I don't care how big he is and how much weight he can lift, I'd smack him right in the kisser. And I promise you to God, I would do it twice.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it, especially in a day and age when everything is so public. I want to say that I respect what he's trying to do, but he's done it in the worst possible way
I
ever imagined.
respected, yeah, I respected what he wanted to do and what he tried to do, but everything was wrong. And it's just, he is bonehead. He's not thinking.
It's because he's vegan now. Did you know that he's vegan now?
Oh,
And
he found the Tim Teep. He found God.
yeah, he did that. So I just I just like I said, I'm 100% on board with his cause. I'm 100% on board with the way that he's seems to be trying to do certain things to bring awareness to the situation. But the biggest thing you could be bringing awareness to is getting people to band together to go about it in a democratic way and vote against a system in which you believe that's oppressed to a system that you think is better for you and the people that you feel are being oppressed, because in the society you live in, thankfully you get that opportunity to go out and do that. But you didn't do that. So you're just caught, you like you just said, which is the biggest thing that got me about the article, is what you said, is that he lied about not wanting to vote for either candidate. While that may have been true, the biggest thing is you weren't registered to vote and you weren't ever planning on being registered to vote. So therefore, you
Your
actually
opinion doesn't matter.
you actually didn't give a crap, two craps about what you actually were trying to
Right.
accomplish. You just wanted to be a narcissist and bring attention to your own self instead of the attention of the cause. So
Or in my beliefs, I believe he just doesn't give a shit. I really believe that he doesn't give a shit. And
I
he sat that
I
day.
have a tough
He
time
sat
saying
that
that.
day because he didn't care. And now that he sat and he got all the scrutiny, he tried to make it some awareness spiel. And in reality, and I'm sick of giving this guy the benefit of the doubt, which I did at first. And you know that more than anybody. I gave him the benefit of the doubt at first. I came on, Living and Cubs fan show, and I was sat there and I said, you know, Colin Kaepernick is doing he has every right in the world to do what he's doing.
Mhm.
That's what's great about being an American. And when it comes down to it, sitting here on November 17th, it is the fact of the matter is he's just a piece of shit.
Yeah, he's lost the benefit of the doubt. I still think he cares about the situations he's in. He's just he may have CTE, unfortunately. That might be it. So he's got a couple of screws loose. Someone needs to,
Good. Well, maybe he should raise awareness for that.
yeah, so he needs to figure out what it is. And I also like, okay, Mike Evans sits this past weekend during the national anthem on the weekend of Veterans Day. I have such a tough time in this situation. Like I want to say, I will say this about Mike Evans. Okay, he's very very young and he's very impressionable and he's very much just probably wasn't aware of exactly what he was doing. Um, and then he went out and sat for the national anthem on Veterans Day weekend during the salute to service situation for the NFL. And he quickly backed off the situation the next day and basically apologized to everyone and all this stuff. But it's just, uh, JV, you're such a better person to talk about it because you are a veteran and you have served in the military. I'm in a complete inappropriate situation to judge all this stuff. But my biggest thing is I want these people to bring attention to the situation. I want them to bring attention to institutionalized racism, because I believe it's a huge cause. Um, but at the same time, I I want them to stop doing it during the national anthem and start doing it in other situations. I want the NFL to get on board with this. I want them to make this happen. And I know we got a phone call, so let's get to the phone call real quick and see what's going on here. Hey, what's going on? This is Steven and Josh with the Real Take. What's your name? Where you from?
Oh, this is Sadducism is my Twitch name, and I'm from Missouri.
What's
And I
going
was just
on,
calling
man?
in since I saw you guys were talking about NFL. I have a couple things on the Colin Kaepernick and the Mike Evans thing.
Sure.
I like you said, I don't have any problem with Colin Kaepernick kneeling, like the whole thing of like he wants to raise awareness for the cause and everything like that. But if you don't register to vote, your opinion is completely thrown out the water
Hmm.
because that's like Josh said. That's the only thing you, as a person, like you can donate money to like local charities and help all the stuff that you want in like your city. But to get a nationwide change, that's the only way you can change anything is by voting.
Yep. Yep. I agree. So what do you, I mean, we were just talking about a little bit about, I personally don't want to see them protesting during the national anthem because all it is bringing awareness and doing nothing else. I think that the NFL should start a campaign and do something to actually prove to these guys that they're actually going out and doing something. What do you think, besides going through and doing a democratic process, what do you think would be, what would you want to see to be like, okay, that's something that's a change that I can get behind. What do you think they might be able to do?
I saw an article on ESPN this week. Uh, a couple of players from like the Browns, I think Josh McCown and somebody and Anquan Bolin all
Mhm,
went to like Capitol Hill and like talked to like actual people in Congress and the House
mhm,
of Reps.
mhm.
Like I think that's a good idea. Like
Yeah,
putting a face to like putting a face with something like makes it more. I know like Colin Kaepernick, you can like all he's doing is kneeing, but like
yeah,
when they went to like they're trying to like change it, like not just by kneeling and getting awareness, like they're actually trying to go do something about the problem.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think like more NFL players need to do that because if I mean little like not little kids but like teenagers and young adults see like
Mhm,
them trying, why
mhm,
wouldn't people my age? I'm 21, so like
mhm.
people my age would do stuff like that because like I mean we look up to athletes. Let's be honest.
Yep,
Like,
yep, yep, 100%. Yeah, appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for
It's
calling.
all really good points.
you guys have a good night.
Yep, thank you.
You too, bub.
So
And
yeah, I mean, great points. I thought that one of the biggest things that I really liked at first about the Kaepernick sat down with the military veteran and kind of explained his thoughts after um, the initial he was sitting and then he converted to the kneeling part. I I completely agree with that caller that we we need to be able to put more faces with the fact that these guys are actually actively trying to do something in the community with their local government situations to help activate this stuff because quite frankly these guys have enough money and enough pull that they can change situations and change entire cities, especially where they're from, very, very easily and very quickly. It doesn't, I mean, I know it costs money, but it's a drop in the bucket for them to probably open up like a Big Brothers Big Sisters or YMCA, get kids off the street, try to inform people, work with their local police department to help them understand the way that they were raised, all that sort of thing. I wish the NFL, like as much as it's great to bring awareness to breast cancer and the salute to service and do all that sort of stuff, I think this is such a huge divisive issue in the country that obviously the NFL players have a very, very big time opinion about, and they really do care about a lot. I just wish the NFL would really sit down with these guys at the table and say, how do you guys want to bring awareness to the situation in a way that respects everyone involved? And what can we help you to do? And I don't think the
right.
NFL is going to do that, but that's
No, I agree. Um, because they're almost afraid of the backlash or the negativity. Like the NFL kind of is in the situation where they almost play everything safe.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I posted this article yesterday on Facebook. Um, and it's a nearby college to me. It's actually the college I was going to go to, and I did not go there. It's the arch rival to my alma mater, which is Akron. The Kent State Golden Flashes basketball team yesterday put a whole new spin on the national anthem. I'm going to post a
Oh,
link here in the chat. Um,
what they do?
so their players and coaches invited like students, family members, and such onto the court, and some of the other players went into the stands, and everybody kind of like huddled together, arms around each other while the national anthem was going across. And somebody asked, why did you guys do this? And the Kent State basketball team says, we're in a time of this country where we need to bring unity together. Everybody needs to come together during this time. And they're like, we just really wanted to be with those who are close to us, and we all just wanted to be together for the national anthem.
Yep.
So it looks like it's something that they're going to do for the rest of the year, is instead of taking the court on the foul line or whatever it is for the national anthem. It looks like the Kent State basketball team is going to go into the the student section or into the crowd and just kind of be a part of that moment. And I thought that was a really, really, really good way of kind of bringing awareness to the whole situation. I think that's the right way to do it. I know you can't really do you can't do things like that when it comes to the pros, kind of just throwing these star athletes into the fans. But in this situation,
unless you're run out test, right?
Right. In this situation, I thought it was great. Kind of just jumping into the crowd,
yeah, definitely,
holding hands and listening and singing the national anthem together. I thought that was good.
And as much as that's great, I do want to reiterate the fact that we have to do more beyond the bubble of the sporting event. They have to go and do this on their own time. They need to go out into the community. They need to do that sort of stuff. And honestly, it's not just about them. It's about myself. It's about you. It's about CJ. It's about everyone that's listening right now. We should all be doing that as well. Just because you're not an athlete, you think that you don't have any power. You have the greatest power of them all, and the fact that you're an individual and you have freedom of choice to go out and act on these communities in a way to try and go and understand other people's lives more than you understand your own life. So I think it's not just on the athlete. It's about every single one of us doing the most that we can to go out there and really put our money where our mouth is. And when I say that, I'm trying to understand what it means to have institutionalized racism, I'm trying to understand what it means to be an oppressed ethnicity, I need to go out and I need to put my money where my mouth is and go out and act on these situations and go actually physically be in that situation, especially where I'm from, in Chicago, where the racism and oppression is pretty rampant in the city that we're in, and it's fairly corrupt. So it's just something that I think that we can't just have these demonstrations to say, oh, yeah, it's great to bring awareness to the situation, but awareness can only go so much before awareness becomes solutions. You have to make solutions to have change.
No, I agree. And I grew such an appreciation for this country, obviously, when I went overseas and, I spent time, I spent about a year in Afghanistan, and I went over there and I saw, how real life is outside of, this great country that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I came back like a different person.
Yeah.
And you just grow such an appreciation for this country. Then it upsets me that so many people almost take it for granted.
Sure.
But and frustrating for me is I'm almost in a not like a lose, like a win-lose situation, because like if I voice my opinion, then there's that crowd out there that either thinks, oh, I'm a racist, or I'm this, or I'm that. Like, you almost can't voice your opinion the way you want to voice it because you're rubbing people the wrong way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have that issue. Like, a lot of people like to speak on an issue. A lot of people want to talk about such and such of what's going on. But the reality is no matter what you talk about, someone's going to be offended.
Yep.
And, like, you post something on Facebook about your own opinion and you're getting backlash about it, even though you're just speaking about what you want to talk about and what you think needs to change.
Definitely. So
it's difficult. It's difficult times, and it's a difficult situation.
Definitely. Do you want to get to the NFL power rankings for this past week and kind of finish up with a little NFL?
Yeah, we do this every week, so I definitely want to get in the NFL as things change every week. So let's do. I'm gonna do my top like 5 or 6 like I keep doing, and then I know you like to do a top 10.
I just have 5 this week.
All right, cool. I have 5 this week too. Then
I have 5 this week.
Go ahead, because I've been going first a lot lately.
I think our number one are probably the same. Cowboys. Do you have the Cowboys at number 1?
No, I'm still gonna stick with the Patriots.
Really?
I'm not. If you're telling me the Patriots against the Cowboys, I'm going to take the Patriots, with Bill Belichick going up against the rookie quarterback, 10 out of 10.
But why?
I know better.
The Patriots defense is horrible.
It's not horrible.
It's horrible.
It's not as good as it's been.
They can't cover the running back out of the backfield.
No, I agree. It's going to get better.
Turn the ball. They don't turn anyone over right now. It's just they're not very good. They're just. I
get you. I can get your argument. Like, I have no problem with you putting the Cowboys at number 1. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. I'm going to go with that as I've done so many years. Like I'm smarter than
in
that.
turnovers right now. 26th in turnovers.
Gotcha.
They can't cover anyone. Like
I want Bill Belichick and Tom Brady more than I want Jason Garrett.
the Cowboys' offensive
Dak
line
Prescott.
would run over the Patriots.
It would be a long day for the Patriots.
Run over
I also don't think that the Cowboys defense can stop Tom Brady come January.
I think their defense is much better. Has a much better chance to stop.
They do have a better defense
to stop the Patriots than the Patriots do of stopping the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys offense, for the way that Dak Prescott has, he's getting a better connection with Des Bryant. He's finding his tight end, Jason Witten. He's taking care of the ball. He's doing a really good job. The offensive line is just so good.
No, I agree. Do you remember when we first started? Like our first week on this podcast, we were like, Dak Prescott doesn't have to do too much. He reads half the field. He's got a great offensive line. And like, we're sitting here week 6 of this podcast. How much has your opinion changed? Like you said, you have the Cowboys number 1. They might be the Super Bowl favorites with 2 rookies manning that offense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows you how important a great offensive line is.
In
my mind.
Go look at the Raiders. What did they do? They took care of their offensive line. Miami Dolphins took care of their offensive line. Cowboys took care of the offensive line. Okay, all 3 of these guys. The Dolphins drafted Laremy Tunsil this past year in the first round. The Cowboys got a first rounder for free in La'el Collins last year because of the whole issue that he had coming out of the draft with potentially being charged with homicide, all this stuff, but all this stuff was cleared. So they signed him as a free agent, a first round talent for free.
Yeah,
they have Zach Morgan, Travis Frederick, Tyron Smith. I mean, that line is so good.
Did you see the pictures? I don't know where it came from, but the pictures of Tyron Smith. The dude looks like Goldberg playing left tackle.
Yeah,
he is, dude. He's ripped. He's got like a 40-pack playing left tackle.
Yeah. So I have the Cowboys number 1 for those reasons, just because I think in a situation, because the Patriots can't run the ball. I mean, they really can't run the ball. They run the ball.
They run the ball well on the goal line, but that's about it.
To set up the pass, and they use the short passing game as basically a substitute for their running offense.
Right. No, yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So that's why I have the Cowboys ahead. The Cowboys win to me against the Steelers was the best win of the weekend because it was on the road, and that Steelers offense can put up a lot of points. And the fact that they tried to run out the clock essentially to kick a field goal, and Zeke broke 2 long runs to score touchdowns at the end of the game. I mean, those guys are just mauling people.
Yeah. Do you think that the Steelers kind of let Zeke score that first of the 2?
Yeah, probably, because I think they wanted it back, and then they drove down, and that was the fake spike to Antonio Brown in the back of the end zone. So
I agree. I just wanted to ask, so I didn't.
So I'm guessing you have the Cowboys at 2 then, right?
I have Cowboys at 2, and then this is where it gets interesting. 3 through 5.
So me and Josh are flipped on that right now. So Cowboys 1 for me, Patriots 2 for me, Patriots 1 for Josh, Cowboys 2 for Josh.
And then I'm going to go with my Oakland Raiders at 3.
Me too.
Like, hey, nice. Like I said, man, beginning of the year when I was on Livin's show and he said that the Bears were going to win, we're going to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. I was like, well, I got the Oakland Raiders going to the Super Bowl in the AFC, and they called me crazy, and I called him crazy. Well, here I am. Anyways, so I got the Oakland Raiders at 3.
They really smacked that bye week this past week, didn't they? They did a great job.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what, man? They're gonna have to play better defensively. But we'll talk about this 3 weeks from now. If they're sitting at like 9-3, I'll be happy.
They have a great schedule coming up, and they're playing the Texans in Mexico City on Monday Night Football. The first Monday Night Football game outside of the continental U.S.
Right, yeah. So, I don't know how I feel about that. Who do you have for 4? And I'll tell you my 4.
4 Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, I have Seattle.
All they do is win. A defense getting Justin Houston back for at least passing downs. I don't like that offense, really. That Spencer Ware thing is still kind of sketchy. And Tyreek Hill's come out of nowhere and kind of substituted well for Jeremy Maclin while he's been out with the groin and concussion injuries. So
could be a blessing in disguise that he got hurt because now they got a second wide receiver.
I love Kansas City. I love Andy Reid. They have the most takeaways in the NFL.
Yeah,
right
their
now.
defense is
At
is
22,
amazing.
they don't do a great job as far as giving up points and yardage, but they just do a great job at takeaways, and they probably have the best free safety in the NFL.
Yeah, ball hawks and then Eric
And
Berry.
Eric Berry is magic. He's just a magical player, great guy.
Okay, so I'm guessing you have Seahawks 5, and then I have Kansas City 5.
I have Seahawks at 5, right after Kansas
Okay.
City. That's what I have
And then
right
I
now.
have right. And
Even
then, so
though
we have
I get really scared putting the Seahawks right there, and I know Kyle and I were talking about this, and Kyle was like, "Oh, he was trying to basically tell me that the Seahawks are the best NFC team right now," which I just think is a whole load of malarkey. I really don't think that defense is as good as advertised, even though getting Cam Chancellor back is absolutely humongous for just the way that they play that cover 4 press underneath coverage. I think it's critical for them to get Cam Chancellor because they can
Right.
basically take away a guy in the tight end in terms of, as you saw.
I'll tell you this. This is the
No.
worst Seattle team we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years.
I'm not ready to say that yet because there's so much football left to go, and Russell Wilson was so hurt at the beginning of the year. I think
Offensive line is the key to me. Their offensive line is so bad.
but it was pretty good this past week against the Patriots, even though again, Patriots aren't that good. Aren't that good. Their front seven isn't that good. But I will say this. I think they're copying the way that the Patriots are playing. This is not your 3 years ago where they're going to line up and run against Marshawn Lynch, except when they're at the goal line and they need to win the Super Bowl, right? I think that the Seahawks are taking a page out of the Patriots playbook, and they're going to use that short area passing game with CJ Procise. They're getting Thomas Rawls back. Russell Wilson is getting healthier. He can move around in the behind the pocket, get away from that offensive line mishaps. We saw it on Sunday Night Football. I really, really think that the Seahawks team, Russell Wilson always starts out kind of slow, and it was even worse this year with the ankle, knee, and I think he had a calf thing too. He always starts off slow, and he gradually builds himself up until he's just absolutely tearing things up. Tyler Lockett's getting healthier. That stretches the field. Doug Baldwin had 3 touchdowns and not a whole lot of yards, but a really, really solid game.
Yeah, Jimmy Graham's been pretty good so far
Jimmy
this year.
Graham's been phenomenal. And Procise, man, Procise is essentially what Deion Lewis or James White is for the Patriots. He's going to catch a lot of passes. He caught a beautiful ball down the sidelines and looked really, really good. But I just think I think the Seahawks, I'm not going to say that this is their worst team in 3 years. I think it could be one of their best teams in the past 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then after that it gets kind of funky. Like there's not I know we were really high on the Atlanta Falcons and they're kind of slipping. They're not really slipping away, but it's just like they're getting less and less sexy every week. But the team that I really want to watch out for, the Detroit Lions. There's something brewing down there in Detroit where if they can win that, they might win that division.
NFC North is bad. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the worst division because we have the AFC South takes the cake by a bazillion miles.
What about you? Anybody else in there that you can see punching a ticket?
I can see the Lions. That's a good one. Matthew Stafford's having a very good year. A lot of people are talking about him as an MVP candidate. I don't see that at all. I think he's good, but I don't think he's MVP caliber. I think I still love the Falcons just because of the way that Matt Ryan's been playing. I think it gives you a chance. That defense has to show me something, and I'm really not that concerned about the loss that they had against Philadelphia. Philadelphia splits between road and home games is tremendous, and that defense plays so much better at home than they do on the road. And the game that they just won was at home against the Falcons, so I'm not holding that against them. And the NFC South is really not that good. I think if Carolina can figure out some things, they could potentially be dangerous. I'm not ready to say that they're a Super Bowl contender, obviously. And I honestly think that the NFC East is going to be very interesting at the end of the year. You got the Redskins, who are 5.
I was just going to give you 2 teams. I was going to ask you, what did you think about the Giants?
The Giants. Titans? Eli Manning obviously started off really slow, looked really, really good against the Bengals. Odell Beckham's obviously coming on. Their running game with Paul Perkins or Rashad Jennings is a little bit questionable. But I think the Redskins, Kirk Cousins, been one of the most efficient passers in the NFL. He's got like a 15-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio over the last 5 games. Just phenomenal. And obviously he takes care of the ball. They've got a huge Sunday Night Football game at Lambeau Field this weekend.
It's going to be good.
I think it's going to be a great game. I'm really, really excited about it.
It's must win for Green Bay.
It's must win for really both of them, honestly.
Right. No, I can agree. But Green Bay is they lose this, their season's done in my mind.
No, I definitely think that's.
What do you think about the Tennessee Titans? Because right now I like them to win the AFC South. They've been playing some good ball.
Yes, they played the worst game of the past 2 months was against the Colts, and they play the Colts again this weekend. So we'll see what happens with them. Mariota has been probably one of the most surprising quarterbacks in the NFL this year, just in terms of taking care of the ball, accuracy, the pass, a little bit of running.
Right, he looks like he's looking more and more like a pocket passer.
He reminds me of a little bit of like a little Russell Wilson-esque, right? Even though he's taller than Russell Wilson, but just the ability to have some escapability, to get out of the pocket. He's really good on the run. He's
so tall. He's huge.
He's huge. Yeah, he's really, really good on the run. I really love Mariota a lot, and I think he's going to be. It's funny. People thought that the difference between Mariota and Jameis Winston was pretty big. I mean, people thought that there was a fairly sizable gap between Winston and Mariota, and now people are thinking there's a pretty sizable gap between Mariota and Winston, the other way around. So
and I was all on the Winston bandwagon with him coming out of the draft.
Yeah, that's to be determined. But
it's a long way to go.
Yeah,
I think it's definitely evened out a little bit.
I think they could definitely win it. The fact that the Houston Texans are 6-3 actually boggles my mind. I just don't get that. But yeah, it'll be.
They might have the worst starting quarterback in the NFL.
Don't
even count the Browns as an NFL team. Well, the 31 teams.
Well, who's in between? Who is in between as far as the worst starting quarterback in the NFL right now?
It'd be like Kessler.
Is it Kessler and Osweiler?
And who else?
Jared Goff this weekend. Jared Goff.
Maybe Kaepernick and what's his face in San Francisco.
Kaepernick's played well the last 2 weeks. I can't fault him. He's played just fine.
Yeah, but he's not a registered voter, so he sucks.
Yeah, he's not a registered voter, but he sucks.
That's my argument.
As the NFL goes, he's all right. But
no. So do you think the Texans win that division, or do you think it's the Titans?
No,
I like the Titans.
No, I like the Titans better.
Okay.
I think the Texans defense is pretty good, but I think the Titans defense is pretty good as well. And
they've underperformed, but if you look at that roster, they got some players.
The Titans are averaging like 45 points over the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I
mean, they just blew the heck out of Green Bay.
Mariota played the Browns, and then ever since then, he hasn't looked back. It has just been
is that what you need?
Lights out, or if you need to boost your ego in your career and gain some confidence, put the Browns on your schedule. They're almost like that non-conference game that you schedule. Just put them on there. So bye week.
Is that what needs to happen if you want to get right? Play the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, it's getting you back.
Someday that's going to change, man. I've been watching them for 16 years, and I couldn't tell you a single year where I was just excited.
Let's get this a little wrapped up for the night. We're a little bit long, but that's totally fine. My last thoughts: are the Browns going to get a win this year? Yes or no? No, not even hesitation right there.
My only thing is if RG3, because RG3's coming back, if he could come out and play like stellar, then yeah. But I mean, that's like a long shot. That's like me shooting an arrow.
He's getting a bone scan. I
really don't think they're going to win a game. And you know what sucks is they're a better team than a 0-win team.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at their schedule. Home against the Steelers this weekend.
Loss.
Which apparently the weather's going to be pretty crappy this weekend. You have to text me on Sunday and let me know how bad it is, because I got to
take the under.
I got to figure out whether or not I'm going to play Pryor or if I'm going to play someone else. And then you got home against the Giants. That's definitely an L, because the Giants are going to need a win. Then you got the bye week, which we hope is a win, but it may be a loss.
At least we won't lose that week.
Yeah, and then we have the Bengals. The Bengals are not a very good football team.
We beat the Bengals once every year.
Yeah, so that could be the game right there.
Could be.
And that's home, and then you got at the Bills, which I don't think is good. And you home against San Diego. Phillip Rivers is turnover prone right now.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers is going to come in here and light us up for 604 TDs.
Jamie Collins will be he'll be into that system. He'll be ready to go. So maybe that's a win there. And then at the Steelers, which that's definitely an L.
Yeah, unless they're playoff bond and they're sitting everybody, which isn't going to happen.
They're not going to happen because they're going to be fighting for a wild card probably.
Well, you heard it here first on the Real Take, fellas. The Cleveland Browns, in fact, will go 0-17 because they'll find a way to lose their bye week game.
Jesus gosh, man, that's so sad.
So real quick, man, I know we usually talk about fantasy and we talk about like how our teams did and everything, but I know we're running late on time. Let's just talk about like who you like this week, who you don't like, and why you like me so much.
Well, I don't like you. My start of the week is absolutely Kirk Cousins on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers. Absolute statement game. He's played phenomenal in a contract year. Super impressed. I mean, obviously, I'm a Michigan State guy. I didn't even think he was going to play as well as he did, but it's home against the Packers.
Mm-hmm. He's coming off of two stellar games at that.
Stellar games, just playing just really, really good football. Just
getting Deshaun Jackson back too, isn't he?
Yeah, but who cares?
Right, but I mean, it's just at least somebody else.
Had the best game against the Minnesota Vikings, which apparently the Minnesota Vikings are an easy matchup now for quarterbacks. But the best game as a quarterback against the Vikings, I think he's a lock for. If you're in standard scoring on a 4-point per touchdown league, I think he's a lock for 25 this week. I really do. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great game for Cousins, and he's going to be ready to go.
I like it. I'm liking DeMarco Murray. I know he's been great all year, but going up against Indy on the turf, I think there's going to be a big emphasis on Marcus Mariota in the passing game, and I think that just gives you all the more reason why DeMarco Murray is going to light it up on the ground. So I like DeMarco Murray at Indy on the turf indoors. With the passing game working really well, play action game is going to be working. Tennessee's rolling, and I like them to win this game at Indy.
Sure, it works.
What about your fades?
The only guy I really don't like is Jai against the LA Rams. I don't want to play. It's at LA. And Jai's coming off his worst game of the year. Which let me just I'm pulling up his. I'm pulling up his game log from this last week, and it was 19 for 79, and he had one reception for 1 yard against the San Diego Chargers, which it's not a good look you want to have there. So I think he may be hitting a little bit of a wall because it's the most he's played in the NFL over his past 2 years. So we'll see what he likes, but I think the LA Rams defense is still pretty good, and they'll probably be pretty fired up since it is at home and they're having Jared Goff play. Who knows how much Jared Goff is a bonus? I can't even believe I'm saying that Jared Goff might be a bonus to your defense, but it might be. And so I don't like Ajayi really this week. I think Tannehill might be a decent play if you're looking for a DFS starter, just because I don't know if Ajayi's going to be able to get going, and they may have to throw the ball a little bit.
I like it. Well, I'm going to stay in the same game, and you kind of stole my thunder earlier. I don't like Todd Gurley this week. I haven't liked him really any week. But especially this week. Against Miami, that Miami front seven is spooky. And Jared Goff's playing quarterback this week, and Miami's going to stack the box and say, "Hey, Jared Goff, I dare you to beat us." And I don't think it's going to happen. So I don't think Todd Gurley's going to see much of anything because Miami's not going to give him anything. They're going to make Jared Goff beat him.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a good streaming defense. For someone that you can pick up and start for the next 2 or 3 weeks, definitely look at the Dolphins. They get the Rams, they play the Niners, and then they play the Ravens, which 3 teams you're really not that scared about. So I'm a big proponent of streaming defenses every single week. I hardly ever hold a defense for longer than 3 weeks at a time. So by far, if you can do it, go look at them, or you can pick up Pittsburgh this weekend for a one streamer, or even the Giants. The Giants.
I was just gonna say I like the Giants with Chicago and Cleveland.
The Giants are looking really good as a potential streaming matchup defense too. So that's much.
You're gonna have to ditch Chicago. I mean the Giants, because then they go Dallas, Detroit, Philly, Washington, which I'll put up.
Yes. Yeah, I don't, and that'll be in the fantasy football playoffs. So I don't think that's a great idea. But,
yeah,
but
I like it.
Yeah, I think that's about it. I obviously appreciate the time tonight. It was a good time. Did you have a good time?
Yeah. I drove about 5.5 hours to do the show today. So shout out to JV Gaming on that one.
Humble brag. Everyone feel bad for JV. Hashtag.
Yeah.
Hashtag humble brag. But
feels bad.
Hey,
DJ Salt.
Thanks so much for everyone tuning in out there on mobile, social media. Follow me, MSU_fanatic88. Josh JV_gaming with 2 G's at the end of it. Follow him on Twitter. Shout out to obviously Scorespace. Thanks so much for hosting us, letting us do this every single week. Make sure you guys check out the other shows we got on. We got Knockout on Tuesday nights, 9 Eastern, with Living from the 510, Out of Bounds on Wednesday at 9 Eastern. Then us, The Real Take at 9 Eastern. And then obviously check out tomorrow, Snake Doctor with Flashback Friday at 9 Eastern, only on scorespace.org. Pretty good. JV, do you want to take us out, or do you want me to say my thing?
Yeah, man, I'll take us out. Okay. I just want to give a quick shout out to all the men and women in uniform, police officers, firefighters, for those serving overseas. The real heroes out there. Like he said, we are The Real Take. We will see you guys next Thursday at 9 o'clock.
Actually, we'll be off next week because it's Thanksgiving. We may be doing something on Wednesday. Stay tuned for just check us out on Twitter. Check out Scorespace on Twitter. Check out that stuff. So we may be doing something, but Thanksgiving, everyone have a very good Thanksgiving next week if we don't do anything on Wednesday. And just remember that takes are dish best served real. We'll see you guys later.
Boom.
Goodbye.